SWAT box, what are you doing here? This is a combat zone. It's restricted. Ease off on your main thruster and head over to patreon.com/SWOCBC for episodes of our all-new series, Inside the Insider, where the gang explores articles from every single issue of the official Star Wars Insider fan magazine in order and get an even closer look at how Star Wars and its fandom have evolved over the years. New episodes with each public upload months earlier for patrons. Red 24, Red 30, follow me to patreon.com/SWOCBC for the latest episode of SWAT Box. Inside the Insider today. In target range. It's ahead. All ships jump to light speed. The Star Wars Old Canon Book Club is made possible by contributions on Patreon. Head to patreon.com/SWOCBC for ad-free episodes, reading guides, movie and TV episode audio watch-alongs, and more. Today's Old Canon fact of the day comes from A Guide to the Star Wars Universe, first edition by Raymond L. Velasco, first published in 1984. An Alpha Team is a small expeditionary force of scientists, astrophysicists, cartographers, geographers, xenobiologists, sociologists, and linguists, all of whom are employed in recording significant findings on newly discovered worlds. Alpha Teams, a service of the Imperial Bureau of Stellar Charts and Surveys, have at their disposal the most sophisticated computers and scientific equipment available. Today's selection is Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, a novel by James Kahn, first published on May 12th, 1983. Enjoy the show, and may the Force be with you, always.
That's no moon! Welcome back to the Death Star. We're on SWAT Box, episode 500, Return of the Jedi, the book.
You actually can't say that because it's right next to a moon in this one.
Sure.
Famously.
That's
the
no
forest moon of Endor. So
no.
you'd be like, no, but that is
That's
actually
no
a
moon. That's a moon.
Do you think this was the first case
It's
of...
just a little bit less clean is all I'm saying, I
Do you
guess.
think this is the first case of fandom ruining something? Because in the book we're going to talk about today, and in the fandom since, when we were kids, no one was like, actually, it was a moon of Endor?
Oh,
Endor
yeah.
is the planet?
Yeah.
In the book, in everything we're doing, it's like...
It's Endor.
Endor, the moon.
Yeah. They're on Endor now.
The green moon Endor, a moon
Right.
whose mother planet had long since died of an unknown cataclysm and disappeared into unknown realms. I say that because that's fucking tight.
That's awesome, yeah. But
That is so
not
crazy.
the case according to current modern canon, I guess.
That like, when we talked about like if we could like do our own story and have something named after us, and I was like some like weird, it's like this where you're like something happened, they have no fucking clue what happened to it. That's like, don't even worry about what the planet of Endor was.
Absolutely, yeah.
I bet you there's like chill stuff on Endor. I don't know what Endor is. I don't know like enough about Star Wars.
Curly-haired girls running around.
This one is
We're
just
gonna
right.
little caravans.
Yeah.
Sindel Tawani? Is that her name? She's coming real
Yeah,
soon.
we're about-
You
we're
have
almost-
no idea.
The
We're almost
idea
there.
of a caravan, and maybe it's not like a covered wagon the way that I'm imagining it, but like that place has no roads. Like they even go out of their way to describe that the like Empire base and that they like deforested that area is the only thing like it on the planet, and it's weird that it's like that. I'm just now thinking about how weird the idea of a caravan.
It's a moon.
You're right.
Technically,
Sorry.
it's a moon. It's a moon. Here's the thing.
Roasted.
Here's the thing. I have always heard the story that and just because we're talking about the Ewoks for a second, I'll get to this in a minute. We'll talk in broad strokes in a
They're
moment.
supposed to be Wookiees.
Yeah, like that. You always hear that. It is so clear in this that they were supposed to be Wookiees. Like having seen the Christmas special and like understanding that there was like a Wookiee Bible and that the Wookiee like culture was very fleshed out. Like seeing this book and reading these quotes about how it looks, because clearly they went with like, oh, they're not that high up in the trees compared to how they are described in this book.
Right.
And like, it's the Wookiees, man. Like they just made him small.
Like small and cute and sellable. Yeah.
Chewbacca even becomes like the team leader and takes them around. Like it's the Wookiees, man.
But like how I also had always heard it was that Ewoks are like cousins to the Wookiees. And then in this book, which is where I think they like get it from, it's like they're compared to like little Ewoks are like little cousins of the Wookiees. And I wonder if that line is where at least in my circles we're like, oh yeah, no, they're not Wookiees, but they're like a cousin species to them.
To me, I read that as like almost like artistic license from like an editorialization.
Yeah.
But like I could see how you could like be writing a guide and have like a kind of computer brain thought about it and be like, well, he said it's the cousin, so let's have it.
There's a couple of things like the lava and shit.
Dude, that's another one.
That this is where I'm like, oh, this is where we didn't really know exactly.
Remember when we asked that question? Mm-hmm. That was like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I don't know how long ago it was. Answered. We now know.
We've been getting a lot of that. That's what going through this has really taught me, is that a lot of the questions we have they're here. The answers are here.
Yeah. How do we know Vader got his body burnt off? James Kahn, baby. Not the actor, but the novelist.
This book was such a fucking treat to read for me. Like, sticks pretty close. I think only the first one had like a lot of wild differences from the movie, but there's so much more information about the characters and their motivations. I'm like sated on my need for Vader to like have needs.
Davis has been playing Final Fantasy 16, and the greatest thing that ever happened to him is being able to like pause the game and look at a chart of how everyone is related in the entire lore. I just love
to like understand all the words in that and understand all the relationships. It's great. But in this, like diving into Vader's like headspace, because for a lot of it, like he's the badass for the first two movies, and then this he's kind of like a little bitch boy. But but it's not. He's not really in this, because you get to go in his brain, and they kind of like talk about the difference between like light and dark, and it's broad because it's a metaphor still kind of here, and about how like the fast quick way is the dark side and the light side is like patient. And it's not that he's like a little bitch. Vader is like patient. He's like a dark Jedi. He's like very patient in his plans.
He's looking at the long game 100%.
Yeah, he's like, he like both respects and still needs stuff from the Emperor. He like needs him to teach him things,
and this
he needs him to like convert
continues.
Luke with him. Like, so it's a totally different thing. And there's like lines, like his relationship with the Emperor has never been. When we get there, I'll like read the quote where I'm like, this is the coolest paragraph that's ever been written about their relationship. What the fuck does it mean?
What about the radio that he fixed?
There's even that even comes back around. I was like excited to hear about Luke making his lightsaber, but the way they describe it is like he's hunched over it tinkering, and I literally thought of Vader fixing the fucking radio. I'm like, oh, just like a little guy like.
That scene actually felt sick to me. I was, when they had the scene where he's building his lightsaber at the beginning of the book, it reminded me of that scene in Mad Max Fury Road where it like pans to Max and he like steps on the lizard and like eats it, and you're just like, what the fuck is this guy gonna do right now? I don't know. That was a cool scene to me.
Yeah.
The biggest takeaway from this entire book is, for those who are curious, it is Return of the Jedi, the movie, except you're in the head of every character that you would see on screen. Even the very beginning of just the Imperial officer who goes to meet Vader, the book is like, this is what he's thinking as Vader's coming down the ramp. This is what he's thinking. Like,
do you want me to read that? I have that quote.
Sure, yeah.
How do you Jared or
Jared Gerard?
Tall,
Jared.
thin, arrogant, was the Death Star commander. He walked without hurry up the ranks of soldiers to the ramp of the shuttle. Hurry was not in Jared, for hurry implied a wanting to be elsewhere, and he was a man who distinctly was exactly where he wanted to be. Great men never hurried, he was fond of saying. Great men caused others to hurry. Yet, Jared was not blind to ambition, and a visit by one such as this great Dark Lord could not be taken too lightly. He stood at the shuttle mouth, therefore, waiting with respect, but not hurry.
Yeah, and that is so awesome for a character that in the movie is like, I walk up, I stand there, I wait for Vader, and I'm like, oh, Lord Vader, we're working as fast as we can. And Vader's like, you better hurry, the Emperor's coming. He's like, oh, damn, that's the scene.
Yeah.
And in this, there's so much more, and absolutely,
every
it's
place,
amazing.
Every character gets at least that much description. The like prose in this are he goes so much harder than you even need to. And I was like blown away, and I loved it. Made it a true joy to read.
This is without a doubt, out of everything that we've read so far, one of the biggest joys I love this book because it adds to something that I already enjoy and makes it so much better. And it's really what all those other like Stardust, all they should have done.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you guys, but I also want to qualify it by saying that, like, first of all, like, Return of the Jedi to me is like not as good of a movie as the other two movies in the trilogy, though it does completely work and is great. Right?
Oh, I mean, literally, it's a glorified fight scene.
Yeah, but let's be real about Return of the Jedi. Like,
it's weird because you have like. It's like one is like, let's just cap off the immediate plot,
aside from
and then
Jabba.
let's cap off the overall thing in one. It's like two different.
Aside from Jabba's palace sequence, which is like a literal one of the best things ever filmed, one of it like a perfect 10, like one of the best moments in cinema history. The Jabba part. Forget about that. Just the actual structure of Return of the Jedi, like the story that wraps up the characters, is like almost nothing happens. They all just kind of like each get a goal and like walk towards it, and then they get it right. That is Return of the Jedi. And as a movie, it doesn't work that good. It works completely and is a great.
It's like a good movie, but it's no way near as good as
Empire. It doesn't touch
Empire.
Empire, and the sheer raw power of the like notion of Star Wars in the first movie is very like powerful. And so
it's like essential for the characters, but if you standalone, if you were just like, I'm gonna pick up a movie and you watched it, it would be it'd be like watching a random episode of a TV show.
Yeah, sure. That said, it's also not a huge idea, right? So it just executes it. Like, you know, like that Top Gun movie from like a year or two ago? It's like, great movie, doesn't aim high, just nails it, and does a great job. That's Return of the Jedi, too, in my mind.
What this does, though, that I mean, I guess it's there, but here it's like actually in the text, is like end the hero. Like, if the first one was like a simple like hero's journey beginning, this is like, he is an adult now. They talk about how he's like, they have like great quotes about how you just like, you become an adult not from like time, but from surviving and experiencing and stuff. And so this like book brought me back into the metaphor of Star Wars, and which is why I'm like, oh, it's a timeless, and it's better as a metaphor than it is this like forever Game of Thrones politicking.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying though, is like, so going to the book version of this, right? This was my read on it. This is not based on fact. This is just like how I felt going into it. I felt like James Kahn was not going into this with like lofty ambitions, right? I think he just wanted to like do a solid novelization, right, of the screenplay. I think he had the screenplay right next to him while he was doing this.
I mean, it is almost one-to-one.
I think he was just kind of doing it, and then he just kind of, I think he started a little bigger on his britches because, let's be honest, this dude can write words. Like, I really liked the last guy, too, the Empire Strikes Back guy, for his sort of, like, really authentic, romantic, sort of pulpy vibes.
And that was very well done as well, yeah.
This guy is really good at, like, imagery, poetic imagery, and not getting too brainy with it, but like really nailing like the music of the line of the words. And so for me, he started really big and flowery and broad and like really was doing like Return of the Jedi plus. And then something great happened where he like ran out of patience to do that and just kind of started like explaining the movie to you, like in a way that makes the movie impact you more powerfully.
As we get more towards the fight at the end, it is clearly just, it is very not that different from, the last half of the book is very similar.
It speeds up. It just goes to like a vanishing point by the end, and that's how Return of the Jedi is. But the reason that it works so good as a book is because like it doesn't aspire to be much. It's a pulp book. He kind of goes into this like Flash Gordon-y sort of like tone that he hits that kind of makes everything like the lightness and like sort of like shallowness of the plot is like served very well by this sort of like he's dashing language and like little bits of like
he's adding flourishes. That another great example that I am absolutely positive Davis probably has a quote from is when Leia saves Han from the carbonite. There's like a whole moment where they describe Han experiencing like coming out
decarbonization,
where he like experiences his entire life in a moment.
He was like, there was just a void. Like, I was just alive and nothing.
You want me to read that?
Sure, it's like so cool. I never once thought of the concept of being unfrozen from carbonite. Suddenly, everything about your life flashes back to you. Like that would be terrifying.
Han squinted up at the dim form above him. I can't see. What's happening? He was understandably disoriented after having been in suspended animation for 6 of this desert planet's months, a period that was to him timeless. It had been a grim sensation, as if for an eternity he'd been trying to draw breath, to move, to scream. Every moment in consciousness, painful asphyxiation, and now suddenly he was dumped into a loud, black, cold pit. His senses assaulted him all at once. The air bit at his skin with 1,000 icy teeth. The opacity of his sight was impenetrable. Winds seemed to rush around his ears at hurricane volumes. He couldn't feel which way it was up. The myriad smells filled his nose, made him nauseous. He couldn't stop salivating. All his bones hurt. And then came the visions. Visions from his childhood, from his last breakfast, from 27 piracies, as if all the images and memories of his life had been crammed into a balloon, and the balloon popped, and they all came bursting out now randomly in a single moment. It was nearly overwhelming. It was sensory overload, or more precisely, memory overload. Men had gone mad in these first minutes following decarbonization, hopelessly, utterly mad, unable ever again to reorganize the 10 billion individual images that comprised the lifespan into any kind of coherent, selective order.
That is so
This
awesome.
bitch describes fucking everything like that.
Yeah.
And you're
That's
just like,
so cool.
it's crazy. You are a reader of good books, so this probably is not going to surprise you. You probably the same way. Reading now for me is usually like either Star Wars books or like I'm reading science or like information. And I forgot that like the unique feature of a book, well, one is that you like do a lot of the load yourself, but like the relationship that an author has to you is like co-oping the story. And it's like the way that they write is like kindling for your imagination.
Yeah.
And he's giving you like the cleanest burning fuel by like
It's style.
describing
Yeah,
things.
pure style.
Just there's shit where you're like, all you need to say are like, they're on the road to Jabba's palace. But the way he describes it is like so cool where you're like, you didn't need to go so hard.
Yeah.
My brain is erect.
So that's kind of what I'm heading towards is I think this motherfucker stumbled onto, by accident, but just by being good at writing and kind of doing this sort of like, I'm not saying he shit this book out, but I think he kind of like wrote it pretty quick.
This is my best favorite version of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Yeah. And I think
This is-
he
and-
landed the tone that like he figured out how to do Star Wars for real in book. Like it feels like Star Wars in a way that Heir to the Empire feels like Star Wars in a way. Like the epicness and the scale of a space opera operating on the pace and scope of Return of the Jedi has successfully been translated into book form, and he's nailed it for the first time.
And
I feel
this does something that I think even Shadows of the Empire does that we constantly talk about on this show. It negates the statement that Star Wars is for kids.
Yeah.
Like this book is clearly adult geared, just like Shadows is clearly an adult geared Star Wars experience.
I'd give it to a 12-year-old.
Sure, but
Yeah.
the idea is like a kid can appreciate it, but it is not designed to like pander to a child. This book, you know, because when you think of Empire, you think like, oh, the Ewoks are to sell toys to kids or whatever. But the book is like, no, I'm going to get into detail on everything. We're going to have conversations about like the fact that the way he describes Jabba's palace is like, oh, there's nooks and crannies where like people can go like get it on, but also do drugs. Like it is exactly how you imagine like a weird drug sex den.
Yeah.
And he sells it as that. It isn't like, oh, Jabba lives in a cave underground
Yeah.
that you see in the movie where there's like an eyeball thing. It's like, no, this place is messed up. At night, there's like drunk dudes on the floor. There's like crazy noises in corners of this place that you don't want to know what's going on over there.
Yeah.
I was like, this is real as shit. This is awesome.
The pacing really works. It's like cinematic. It feels like Star Wars. It captures it all. And I would say that this is, and this is based off my memory, right? Like I haven't read any of the books that I read when I was a kid yet. Like we haven't got there.
Oh, same.
And
Big
I
same.
haven't read a single one of them twice.
Right.
Except for maybe like the Timothy Zahn books, like when I was a kid again, right?
Right.
But like this to me is square with that style almost. And I would say that like as we're here now, as I'm like looking at this with a, I don't know, I'm like, I have an English background. Like I'm not, I'm not trying to say I'm an expert, but like, compared to you guys, I learned how to do English in school, right? I would say that the style of Star Wars is like aesthetically descriptive. Like it's very like deeply like entrenched in like describing what's around you, kind of like
a lot
how
of like describe the way the walker works or the ship looks.
Yeah, and a lot of like lore comes out in just like descriptions. There's a lot of like thought boxes, like a comic book like Chris Claremont's X-Men, where there's like a lot of like conversations going on inside people's heads. I think a lot of the time when there's like psychic communication that can happen, that viewpoint just comes into the books a lot more. So that's part of Star Wars, but not a lot of structural theming. Like Star Wars does not have like themes that like emerge from the very structure of the novel. You never think like, oh, Return of the Jedi is about loss or something like that. You don't see how the themes that the characters go through are echoed in the like actual plot or like style of the book. I think that's like the level of complexity that Star Wars lands at, and I think it's like pretty hard across the board, like where Star Wars lands. And I think that's just interesting. I don't think there's anything better or worse about this type of writing, and I think that you can always elevate this type of writing beyond this. But I think part of why Star Wars works is because they don't. Like, this is democratic work. This is like, supposed to appeal to old people and young people and definitely adults and definitely teens and a lot of different people. And I think it's really comfy, and I think it's really true. I think that I do want to say that I think he deliberately wrote this like pretty quick. Like there's a pretty quick, I don't think he like did many drafts of this genuinely, but I do think that by doing that,
I don't think it like,
no, but that's what I'm saying.
When I read it, I was like, wow, you like took a thing and you like
my point
elevated
is just,
it.
My point is
I have
just
no
that
thoughts
didn't,
about how the rapidity.
My point is just that
I don't even know how he would elevate it more.
My point is just that he didn't set out with like this huge project to like define Star Wars as a book.
It's clear that,
but he did, I think.
In this book, along with some of the ones we'll read later as we get into like the writing section of Star Wars, this one does something that I think some of the later books do and then some just fell at, but we haven't a lot of experience with, where it's very clear that he went in with the idea of, I'm going to tell the story of these young people becoming adults from the perspective of adulthood is the coping and growing out of various traumas in your life. And so he's like, yeah, these guys saw people die. They fought in wars. Like, Luke isn't a boy anymore. He has seen some shit.
I have the quote if you want me to read that.
Yeah.
He was clad in the robe of a Jedi Knight, a cassock really, but bore neither gun nor lightsaber. He stood loosely, without bravado, taking a measure of the place before entering. He was a man now, wiser, like a man, older more from loss than from years. Loss of illusions, loss of dependency, loss of friends to war, loss of sleep, distress, loss of laughter, loss of his hand. But of all his losses, the greatest was that which came from knowledge, and from the deep recognition that he could never unknow what he knew. So many things he'd wished he'd never learned. He had aged with the weight of this knowledge.
That's just like life, dude.
That's like, Han was like taken over. This like re-solidified Luke, but it's 100% because I feel like Luke in this run. Like, that's how I feel now, where I'm just like, I'm tired.
But
I think that's the point of Luke
just
as
like,
a character. Luke was supposed to be...
He is like the prototypical hero.
So to have this written down, to have this be... No, this is Luke. It feels good to be like, damn, Luke been through, like, I feel like Luke sometimes.
Also,
that's true.
They back it up with... When they describe like him walking through Dagobah, because he's like a full online Jedi. He like senses things. He's like, he doesn't go the safe way. He just walks straight to his thing. And there's like something in the bushes growled.
He trusts.
And he like gave it one thought and then it cowered away. He just like gets it, and he's like a man, and it's sick.
Yeah. The thing though, right? Like if I'm like a writing professor and this guy turns this in, right? The note that I'm going to say is like, okay, show don't tell. But like for some reason, I don't know why, but like in real life, it's out, it's real. You can't just like say writing is bad because it doesn't follow the rules. something about this tone being like, here's how Luke feels, here's how Darth Vader feels, here's how they grow, and they just lay it out for you, and they do it beautifully, like with beautiful words. It like works for Star Wars on paper. It like
that's because we get so very little of it.
It keeps it so rollicking and so I'm not like feeling this the way that I'm feeling like the father-son relationship with the same depth that I'm feeling it in a movie like Big Fish, or where it's literally about a father-son relationship, like thematically, or like a movie like I don't know, The Lion King or something like that. Which
There will be blood.
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, like it's so complex, realistic, but in the like fast little drama that we're playing, that's like really more about what's going on in the present than it is about the structure. The fact that they just lay it out for you and just kind of go, here's how you're supposed to feel. To me, I think it really works for Star Wars. And I think like actually a large portion of why some of the more heady stuff in Star Wars doesn't work for people is because they lose this sort of simplicity. And it's not about being dumb or smart, right? Like, I don't think it's better or worse. I just think Star Wars a lot of the times is...
It's like, if the story or the universe is like a structure, what kind of story can it actually support? And it works better in these like sweeping metaphorical tales more than some of the other stuff, like, because it's like a pastiche of all this stuff, like, that's just going to work better with certain things than other things.
I love In-N-Out Burger so much.
Uh-huh.
It's unchanged in tone, shape, or form from like the 1930s, right? It is doing that fucking thing, and it is doing it perfectly. And I don't want there to be bacon at In-N-Out Burger, and I don't want them to do a fish patty. I don't
want a crispy chicken sandwich.
Yeah. And though I love going to a restaurant, some in a more fancy context, where I'm expecting to pay $200 just for myself at this place and eat a burger and have like 5 glasses of wine, and the burger has like miso and like some kind of weird whatever.
Fancy.
That's great, and it's also its own thing. And I even think it's okay to say it's above the In-N-Out Burger because the aspirations are higher. The more work is going into it. It's more training to work at this place and cook this food.
But it's comforting to get an In-N-Out Burger.
But there's nothing less than about In-N-Out Burger. And when I go to In-N-Out, I want In-N-Out, right? And so I think a lot of what is undersold or maybe underexpressed about a lot of the like Kathleen Kennedy fucked up Star Wars, nobody knows how to do it anymore. I really think it's just misplaced frustration about knowing how to feel about what's going on. Like,
honestly, I was just thinking about that while reading this, that real talk, I would have loved the Kahn Last Jedi treatment.
Bro, read the comic. It's great.
There's so much that I think he could have added using this style to literally, like, just the very first scene of like Luke and Rey on the cliff. Actually having like inner monologues would have helped that 12,000%.
Yeah. Like
I know I would have enjoyed it more.
I'm operating on a level where I don't need that. I'm looking at Star Wars like but that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't have that relationship with Star Wars where I'm like, I need it to be one thing, but I think a lot of people do.
Well, I don't know that it needs to be one thing. I just like the idea of additional information. It's not necessarily good or bad. I just like the idea of being told more.
And that's what you expect from Star Wars.
I love that. This book actually like gave me complete closure on like the original trilogy. I'm still going to love to go beyond and do all the shit that we do, but because it filled in some of the gaps for me, which was mostly just about Vader.
Yeah.
I'm like, I am now totally locked in. This more than justifies like changing like Leia's origins and Vader to be his father. Like, this completes the like hero's journey, and I'm like, I have this, and now I can also have the expanding universe, but I'll always have this now. And
right.
I'm like, so...
And it's not there in the movie. It's just that I think part of it is that like maybe the concept of Star Wars was exploding beyond what a movie can really do already.
I mean,
by the time
it's just
Return of the
unfair
Jedi's
that
out.
You can just say their mind.
It feels so weird when Luke is like, I've grown up and now I know more than I did before, and now I'm going to beat you. And that's like, that's why Return of the Jedi doesn't hit like the like ambiguity of Empire Strikes Back and the like sort of mystery of the Force and stuff like that you're used to feeling from Star Wars. But it's because like now you're telling like, you know, what's the tonight
Right.
What's that story?
Tonight. There's like all these different parts happening and everybody and all the little parts have to go. And so Star Wars became that, right? Star Wars became that organically, and George Lucas couldn't contain it. David Lynch was like, I'm not even going to get involved, George. And then like this guy with the power of books, I think, contained it. And that's why we have these weird little offshoots of Star Wars that are about Han Solo and Lando, like before everything starts hitting. And then we realize, oh, maybe Return of the Jedi, I think the expanded universe is basically just Return of the Jedi.
I mean, there's an interesting thing here that in the book and movie that I absolutely think you're right when it comes to the movie and the way you tell stories in a movie. And the book itself is its own thing that I think, Davis, you're absolutely right. It just like puts like a little period at the end and is like, this is
It's way
perfect.
more effective of a way of telling the story of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, but what it does is it also puts into perspective the differences between a movie and a book, and how the scene where Vader throws the Emperor in the pit. In the book, it is one very specific way. We're getting a lot of like what's going on up here. And in the movie, it's just camera, flashback, he looks over, and then he just picks him up and throws him in, right? And you're supposed to intuit what's going on.
That's how it used to go. Yeah.
Right. And I think what it teaches us is that all the new changes and edits are like only inserted for like low media literacy.
Yes.
And it sucks because it's
Not
unnecessary.
all of them, but a lot.
No, but I
of
mean,
them.
like for that moment,
Yeah.
him being like him flashing back, him saying no, like it is designed now so you cannot misinterpret that. But I never thought you could misinterpret it anyway.
Right.
It's literally the new versions are what is kind of in this book, except it's just straight up like we're going to put it in the movie, which is bad for the movie, I think.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show that like the book has its own way of telling it that I enjoy, and the movie is its own thing. I just think the book version's like a better version of the story.
There's no way to get around the fact that like you can get more out of an entertainment the more cultured you are. Like the more entertainment, and I'm only saying this as somebody who used to work at a Blockbuster. Okay.
Sure.
I'll tell you this. My job was to watch like 5 movies a week, really, because I needed to be better at movies. And
Right.
it gave me like an education of culture. And now when I watch stuff, you see so much more. It's like doing what crazy people do when they're like, oh, Final Fantasy 16 is going to come out. Well, if I start Final Fantasy 1 in 2014,
I will be able to appreciate everything. Yeah.
That's true. That's true of the Final Fantasy. That's true of the Final Fantasy games, and it's true of movies as a whole, because all the movies were made in the same culture and the same audience, and we all have seen them. And so, like, man, like getting that language and getting that depth is something that makes everything more enjoyable for you. But it's kind of like, what type of person is watching what type of thing when? I think we just went from a time when pretty high reading level people were into superheroes, and we were delivering some pretty.
Oh, and now it's a general public thing, is what you're saying?
And like I think when it started, like the reason that it worked was because the movies were pretty clever and like pretty movie-y and like took risks and did things. And then as the audience got bigger, there's a lot more pressure on the movies. You gotta soften it. And it's not like you're making, like, I really want to underline the fact that I don't think that simple stuff is like worse than complex stuff. Like when it comes to music, anyone here in this room will tell you that I have the most like, I love like a 2.5 minute like you know, there's like a
Alex
basic
loves song 2 from Blur.
Yeah.
It's one of his favorites.
I'm
Woohoo.
not even joking. Like I really do love that song. Or like
a great song.
8 Days a Week by the Beatles or some shit like that is going to be my favorite song, right? There's nothing necessarily bad about being simple, but it's just a business. Like it's like I say with comics and all this stuff, editorial, it's impossible to get away from it. You like producers are part of the process. Like once that idea gets big, it's got to be a little bit more appealing, or else everybody's going to get mad, or you're not going to make money, right? And like the people that put the money in got to make money. So looking at Star Wars,
That's like always the things that inspire, like Dune is like headier than Star Wars, but like a lot of the stuff that inspires the big popular things are more complex, but like it's simpler, but it's more like crowd pleasy.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
I think that Return of the Jedi's landing was like when Dave becomes like the baby at the end of at the end of 2001.
Yeah.
Like
Sure.
like I think Return of the Jedi is like both the end of when Star Wars was actually raw and like impacting the zeitgeist and just like going crazy and just hitting everybody. I think it's the end of that. I think Return of the Jedi is where that ends. But I think that the sort of like side benefit of that for us, the readers of the Star Wars Legends canon, is that like it also sort of like crystallized that's what Star Wars is Return of the Jedi. Like crystallized is like Star Wars on all cylinders. There's no better version of it than Return of the Jedi, the movie, I think, in terms of like what anybody's looking for from Star Wars, because it hit everyone's expectations. Even the people who were like into the darkness of Empire, even the people that were confused by Empire and wanted something simpler, everything was kind of handled and we kind of saw the shape. And so they tried to do it again, but they made Rise of Skywalker was like even dumber than Return of the Jedi.
I mean, what makes Return of the Jedi good is that you're right, it gives you everything Star Wars is. It gives you, you're fighting dudes above a sand pit, you are flying through space in a space battle, you're doing a lightsaber fight on the Death Star.
Is like a gem, though. That is like, if that was just a movie itself, it would have won Best Picture.
Admittedly, love that bit. I fast forward through all the Ewok scenes. Every time I do not watch the Ewok scenes. I think they're boring.
My dad hates anything like goofy in Star Wars. He hates like Sebulba. He hates
even
Jar Jar.
But
he
even
hates
with
Waddle.
the writing, the Ewok parts were far more interesting. I mean, because this guy's writing
in this, great.
and like
the culture.
If you divorce that, I mean, I think they even refer to them as teddy bears in this, which is tough. But like, if you just use your brain to imagine a cooler looking Ewok, it's silly to see like people in costumes like fighting soldiers. The way they describe the like expanded warfare of the Ewoks makes them more formidable in the book than seeing
but
it
is
play
but it's
out.
all in the text too. It's like all in the movie too. It's
in the movie, but the extra bits, you're like, oh, sometimes the goofiness of the effects that you're seeing just outweigh your brain, and then when they're not there, you're like, whoa.
Yeah, it's the same. What humans are capable of will never match like the way that an Ewok can be cool in your imagination, right? Like, and I remember people hated Ewoks like at the time too, right? They were like kind of porgy for people.
Sure.
I don't know. They've just always been around for me, but
I think it's funny. I think like Star Wars is like bigger than the cool parts. Like I like that stuff is there, but I don't know. Like just the sort of sampler platter of vibes that Return of the Jedi has, I think. Other than like the weird things that we're going to get to, like where they like spin off and do like the ancient history stuff, or they spin off and they do like the not real sequel trilogy where they like kind of actually, the vibe seems to be to try and change the formula of Star Wars a little bit. I don't know, like when we're doing Star Wars at its top tier for like 7 or 8 years in the 90s and everything's popping off and everything's a hit and we love it all, which is what I imagine is going to happen, even though it's not.
Are you trying to prep me for Jaina Solo?
Huh? I love Jaina
Empress
Solo.
of the universe.
Listen, don't
feared of the.
Don't worry
wrong.
about it. Don't worry
Jedi
about it.
with a purple lightsaber.
Don't worry about that. That's
but also TIE fighter pilot outfit.
We're going to be 55 years old by the time we get there. Don't worry about it.
I will say, I think you were getting like the Ewoks of the original trilogy are the only thing that my brain has to put up with. I just like A New Hope. Love that all the way through. I don't have to like brace.
What about
for
the Jawas?
anything. The Jawas they're not bad at all. Like they are. I guess they have like smaller and like their voices like squeak. Like they have some of the same elements that like the Ewoks do, but they're not. They like fit.
You don't feel
the
like
universe.
you're being marketed to, yeah.
Right. Like whereas they're just like, we have a Wookiee and we've seen the Wookiee and they do look like teddy bears. Like there's no way around it that it's like Build-A-Bear.
And it is.
It's funny though.
But it's weird to have, like, Jawas, for example, exist to sell things and scavenge. Like, that is their livelihood. And so that's what we expect them to do, be small little scavenger dudes. These are teddy bear warriors.
They kill.
Just seems
It
weird.
really
It always
is,
has.
like, and in the very same movie, we have like Jabba the Hutt, who is still one of the coolest interpretations of a villain. Had a lot of revelations. He's a fucking snake. He's not a worm. I think because Han calls him a worm, I always thought of him as a worm, but here they're like, no, he is a snake. He's like definitively a snake.
but they probably
which
didn't
makes sense
see-
for being a like. It's a very on the nose.
I always think of him as a slug.
sure.
You know?
He's also overtly
worm slug.
sexual.
I'm saying like, but here they're like, no, it's snake skin. It ends in a snake tail. Like they go out of their way to say that. The Sarlacc pit, again, adding. It's so scary. It's so like my brain didn't understand the idea of like eldritch, like a thing where it like upsets part of my like pre-human DNA in a horrific way. Like being eaten is like it's like so cool. And then it's like, oh, but also we have teddy bears.
Yeah. Because you get to control how long you look at the stuff that you look at when you read, which is like...
No, I'm just saying the difference between like how dark the fantasy in the beginning is, and then in the end you have like kids for kids. This is kids.
Sure. But also,
So
I
it's
mean,
weird.
like, the way a movie is, most people get the same thing from a movie. Like you can usually like tell when a scene is scary or when a scene is happy in a movie. But like with words, it kind of like varies. So like, if I go into this and I'm like number one Ewok fan, I'm thinking like, not only are the Ewoks great already, they've been glorified even more. Ewoks forever. Everybody who loves Star Wars loves Ewoks. So it's like, just I think by design of how the book works and how we read the book, that's even possible, that you can see the same story. And just because they have decided already what Ewoks are, it's harder to get behind it, right? Like you can now decide what Ewoks are to some extent yourself.
That's true.
And you're like doing some of the work, which you're not. You are doing it when you watch a movie, but you're not creating the world for yourself. You know, I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I think that the thing that we're noticing about this is that maybe Star Wars works better as books. That's kind of what I'm getting at today.
It's tough because they're incredible films.
Yeah. Some of them are.
But I'm like, if I had read this, I mean, without the movie, I don't know if like reading this would impact me on the same way that having both allows me to do.
Right.
So I just love when something like this exists where every adaptation is taken very seriously, and maybe all of the inner thoughts are completely manufactured, but because it's so similar, I assume that's what they planned out. Like what Vader thinks about the Emperor is true to what we're supposed to be getting from the movie. We just don't get that ability.
Yeah.
Right.
And
No,
so
not necessarily, right? Like,
Because if Vader turned to camera and was like, the Emperor, here are my thoughts, like it would just be weird.
Yeah.
So having that here
but
works.
I'm like, it seems like real, and it doesn't. Everything checks out with the film, so it's a beautiful, like, it's almost like a dumb exercise to even be like, would I rather one or the other? I'm like, I love that they both exist, and this is a good case of them. Like,
Right.
I think maybe the original, like A New Hope comic book version didn't really add anything like that. You know, I could do without that, but like how serious they took Empire Strikes Back, that also gave me like another appreciation. So
I think the art alone for Star Wars, the comic, was like,
The hyperspace jump, like all that was very
really-
beautiful. Yeah.
it's like, it's good, but like it was like truly a step up for Empire.
Yeah.
Like that was like, but you're right. Some of that stuff, some of
but
those
that's
shots
also,
were like,
but that's also like round two with the double the money, probably.
yeah.
But Return of the Jedi, like I'm saying, like I think that Return of the Jedi both is the apex of what Star Wars can be, and is also the end of Star Wars being anything more than it is ever going to be. I think like the Return of the Jedi is like what locked Star Wars in forever. I think that the problem that people are having now about Star Wars is that it does not resemble Return of the Jedi as much as
Yeah.
it used to.
I would agree with that. That sounds pretty fair.
I'm overly simplifying it on purpose.
Well, I think
A
because
couple other things I think too that Return of the Jedi does that is incredible that I like forget. Like this has the most overt fantasy to me.
Yes.
Elements.
Oh yeah.
Jabba's palace. I didn't really like think about it because again I've just been encountering it. I'm like, this is the most fantasy. The difference between this and the comics is just this is like better done, but like this is the same shit. Like a temple of like crazy people run by a snake guy. Like the Conan movie had that. Well, also James Earl Jones. Like it feels very like fantasy place you would go to, but you put like a floating barge and a couple other things, and it works completely. And I don't think
it's a mob boss. So it's like it kind of like works in our own world. Also,
Right.
we can
the big bad is literally a lich.
yeah.
Like it's a man in a robe who shoots lightning out of his
Straight up. Yeah, he's like
But
a wizard.
I think
he doesn't even have a sword.
I think
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
other elements were very like sci-fi, like maybe fantasy theming, with like sci-fi trappings. This feels like a fantasy. They went to a fantasy bit for a while,
And
but
I
it got
think
plussed up with their things.
I think it's earned too because we grow through it. Where the first movie is straight up like use the Force, Luke, and he doesn't understand it, but he like hits a shot because he like trusted in something, right? And that's it. Like for Force powers, there's very little going on except
Yeah.
for like I should go
Well,
here.
Empire is pretty.
They did.
But then Empire comes in and it adds the fantasy into the sci-fi, and then the last movie is literally like it's sci-fi, but the fantasy's carrying.
yeah,
this one.
Empire is like Dune.
Like
Yeah.
for me, the most fantastical part of Empire is like Dagobah, like that
Sure.
idea. But even that is like, I don't know, a swamp is like not that crazy.
Luke in general is basically like Link.
But it's
Like, you
also
know,
Sure,
Yeah.
but I'm saying like visual, like Jabba. That whole thing is like the most like,
you mean
that's
like
a fantasy movie.
lack of computers? You mean like lack of technology and
like a D&D
civilization?
setting.
I mean,
Really?
I mean, like, I guess that I don't know how to describe it better than just like
aesthetically, it just looks more visually like fantasy film.
it's
Yeah.
like where a sword and sorcery
that's what I'm
place would
saying.
end up.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing is like, yeah, it ends. This ends like Star Wars. I still consider the original trilogy like the original story. This is the great hero's journey beginning and ending, and it like is the best of what that can be. And how you're talking about like people get when they try to do it more. I still think that the Star Wars universe is great for any kind of story you want to tell, minus the like Star Trek-y things that doesn't gel with it. But you should sort of be like, and we're done with these characters. Like you really should just be like, and we don't go back to the Skywalkers.
Well-
Let's go elsewhere and do it, because like at least their story in its purest form is this simple generational story.
If you wanted to keep having the same effect that Star Wars was having, right? That's what you would do. But now you've created
Right, yeah.
an empire. Now people love those characters like religious figures.
Divorced from like how people are and how it went.
Right.
Like The Matrix, it should have ended with the
It would
first
be
movie,
time to move
and
on.
There should be no other ones.
If people
before you
made
go
them
do-
for free, they would be on to another project.
Yeah. Or it's like Final Fantasy, where you're like, the next game is like, there's crystals and there's themes, but it's like a different, it gets to be its own.
There's gonna be the
thing.
Force, but it's like this is Joe Starkiller.
So what you're saying is we need troopers from another universe.
What I'm saying is we need to travel back 10,000 years into the past,
Bro?
and visit a certain Mr. Kahn,
Bro?
and see what that dude is up to.
No, you know who the one is? Nomi Sunrider.
Call me Exy. Mr. Coon was my father.
Well, actually, 10,000 years I think is actually Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Yeah, that's 30,000 years.
30,000, yeah, we'll go back
30,000
further.
years. Yeah. Shall we blow
Yeah.
through this?
Yeah.
There's a few things like, okay, here's the thing. This is Return of the Jedi.
There is very little story difference.
We have discussed the things that are beautiful about this book for the most part.
Sure.
In our preamble, we're going to blow through this. We're going to get a little Return of the Jedi-y for a couple weeks here. So I'm not going to spend a bunch of time. I'm going to focus on what's different, and we're going to go from there. Does that sound fair to you guys?
Sure.
Since we're-
I just go through, I have like a lot of like quotes and other stuff that's like
I'm just saying,
tied
I'm not
to-
going to spend too much time explaining the plot of the movie.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So we got a prologue though, just to start things out. That's like not in the movie, and it's a Star Destroyer shows up to the Death Star, and it's already at Endor, and we see Endor first thing, and a shuttle drops. Darth Vader shows up.
It's straight up just like POV of the pilots being like, dude, Vader seems more ticked off than usual. And then like, we
Yeah.
gotta land this shit.
Yeah, it's like almost like the same scene that we get in the movie, but there's just like a little bit more to it.
It has the same vibe as that very split second of Rogue One where Vader's standing in the hallway, but it's like pitch black, but there's the red outline. That's kind of the vibe where they look behind them and he's in the cockpit, in the like passenger area.
They're like, oh,
it's pitch
fuck.
black. The man's just in there, and you can just see in your mind's eye what that movie scene would have been like. These two pilots just like, oh boy.
Yeah. So that's the thing that we get that's new. And then we get like and then he's like, the Emperor's coming. You tell him on when he gets here. And he's operational. Oh, blah, 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 blah. That all happens. But next we're on Tatooine. Bang. We're in this is like a scene that's like I believe was filmed. I don't know, but
I think I've seen footage of it.
yeah, I believe it was filmed, and I believe that there was a recent like hot toy like in the last like 5 to 10 years of this Luke that he has his black suit, but there's like a sandstorm going on maybe outside or something, and he's like building his lightsaber in a little cave, and the cave is Obi-Wan's house, right?
Actually, it's Obi-Wan's hut, but I think that this figure is from after Jabba's like scene. They have like in a sandstorm
Meet up
at the Falcon, and his X-wing are there
with the legs
and
sticking out.
This has to be like from that. I think.
Well, it says he's like cloaked in a hut, and there's a sandstorm in the first chapter.
Really quickly,
This little bit, because I'm looking at it right now, feels like it's a movie moment because it like doesn't give you much. It's like he does this, it does that.
This
and
was
then
the
it, like, ends.
Mac,
It's like
the Max Rockansky
I want to
part.
just really quickly. I want to go back to the previous thing because I wrote this note down. And it's awesome.
Sure.
And this is. I'm surprised Davis doesn't have this. I bet you do. Where there is a line written that talks about stars, and it just starts like the
prologue. Yeah,
like that. The star bit of just it's so good. Him being like, there are these stars, and the
Do you want
stars
me to
mark
read it?
moments of the universe. Yes, it's so good.
Yeah, it's also the opening which just gets you hyped.
Also, it is straight up the beginning of the Star Wars, like that Death Star rap. It's not the east side
No,
or the
it
west
is
side. Of the
not.
north. It's the
Yes.
it's the dark side.
That
That's the
is
same thing
correct.
here, but with stars
Yeah.
and the Death Star. It's amazing.
The very depth of space. There was the length and the width and height. And then these dimensions curved over on themselves in a bending blackness measurable only by the glinting stars that tumbled through the chasm, receding to infinity. To the very depth, these stars marked the moments of the universe. There were aging orange embers, blue dwarfs, twin yellow giants. There were collapsing neutron stars and angry supernovae that hissed into the icy emptiness. There were borning stars, breathing stars, pulsing stars, and dying stars. There was the Death Star.
That is
That's
so
the
cool.
dude. I could like hear like well, I'm just like sitting there like, oh, we're like in it. We're like fucking doing it.
And now
fact that
there's
that exists,
OnStar. Yeah.
Like the fact
Yeah.
that existed, I was just like, this is everything about this. Even the like talking about the Emperor and just like, yo, the Emperor, people love that guy. He was a fan. Coruscant loves. It isn't just like he's an evil crone guy. They're like, no, he's very popular with the people.
He also just
Crazy
loves this structure. This is like the exact same thing about like when he was like loss of his hand, loss of whatever. It's like the exact same like little grammatical
Little like
list for
poetry.
it.
It's very clearly what Lucas was going for with like, even when you hear like Freddie Prinze Jr. and stuff be like, it rhymes. Like, that's clearly what he's going for.
Oh.
This just nails it
Yeah.
in such a very visceral way. Like, yes, all this is symbolism. Don't like get too caught up in the weeds. It just means something, but it's not important what it actually is on screen. It's nice.
Yeah. C-3PO and R2-D2 are headed towards
This was a beautiful moment because like I'm like, oh, this is like they're back. It's like a New Hope, but you know how like at the end you're like, you guys are still arguing about like, or C-3PO is just like bemoaning the life of a droid on a road in Tatooine, and it's like a beautiful like still the same yet they've come so far kind of moment.
Yep, it's very true. They're looking for Lando. They don't know where he is. They're worried because they haven't heard from him.
hasn't
even though
reported
he
in, yeah.
disappeared from here. They get to the door. The eye pops out of the gate, and then it doesn't seem like they're going to get let in, but then the gate opens anyway, which is very ominous. Bib Fortuna is there. He is a Twi'lek.
Solid description, by the way, of Bib in this, where it describes his like. what do you do with your little head tails? And it's like, yeah, he would throw them over himself. Sometimes let him hang down if he wanted to be like this way. It just adds more than ever we could hope for. Like,
protruding from the back of his skull were two fat tentacular appendages that exhibited prehensile, sensual, and cognitive functions at various times.
Very active.
Which he wore either draped over his shoulders for decorative effect, or when the situation called for balance, hanging straight down behind him as if they were twin tails.
Very cool.
I think that's brilliant that it really quickly describes, like, here's this alien species, this is what these head tails are for, and it's everything you can think of, you wacky perverts. Like, it's all there.
Without taking a biology class in Twi'leks, you get like, whoa, okay, they're not just like, they do stuff. They have like cool things.
Yep. It's not just a cool sci-fi thing they threw on.
They're like, we have a gift for Jabba. He's like, well, okay, let's go. 3PO doesn't like it. They get in to the den. It's really a shithole. Jabba's hitting his bong over and over again.
By the way, in this section, they describe Jabba in a way that is like changed my attitude when they're like, Jabba had no hair. It had fallen out due to a myriad of diseases. I was like, is the implication that
he was a
Hutts
man?
have hair?
Yeah, was he a man?
Crazy stuff.
I don't know what they thought, but
Yeah, he was. I don't need to read this whole
I don't know.
quote. They were like, he's yellow reptilian, skin like a snake, except covered with a fine layer of grease.
I was trying to find out if I was trying to guess if he had seen the puppet, but I don't think he did.
I don't think.
Useless arms.
Yeah.
Okay, where is it? Yeah, you read the part about like no hair. It had fallen out from a combination of diseases.
I don't think
and then
Hutts were supposed to just be like hairless
Doo-doo,
slug dudes.
doo-doo, yeah.
I feel like he was supposed to be a freak.
I think he was supposed to be like Emperor, or not Emperor, but the Harkonnen Baron.
Yeah, like he just.
Like a fucking.
I was gonna say
that's
like
the vibe.
this read of him is that like he is the. They're not supposed to be like bloated like this. This is like a
He's like
person that is such a fuck.
excess.
Yeah, and that he is like become this. It's like from Blade. What's the vampire that's
Yes,
like
the one that he
librarian?
shines the light on.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like it seems like they should be more muscular and more just regular sized, or at least like more muscular and snaky.
So Luke's like, I'm gonna give you these droids, and as a homie, and then you should give me Han back, because if not, I'm gonna kill you. And Jabba thinks that's hilarious, but he takes the droids, and 3PO and R2 go down to the dungeon. You're a feisty little one. That
Did
scene.
you know, according to this book, that you're a feisty? That is a lady robot, and she's sassy as hell. And
I did not
love
know
her.
that.
Yeah, EV9D9.
I did not think of it as like a effeminate droid, but now I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I guess I can hear it now.
I mean, I don't know. That
whoever Alan Rickman did,
they might have
made
changed.
it me
They might
think
have
of Alan
changed.
Rickman.
They might have changed it in production at some point. But yeah,
I mean, it was just a droid and had like an I talk like
Yeah.
this voice. But the fact that this is like, this lady droid was like, you guys suck.
Yeah.
We'll find a use for
Fuck
you.
you. little freaks.
here's a cool thing that, because like I don't know if I thought of this or I saw something about it or got it from Schroeder, but like the idea of like, what is their plan exactly? You know, like trying to piece together their plan because a bunch of things happen. But here they talk about 99 left, you're a feisty little one, but soon you'll, whatever. Several of our astro droids have been disappearing recently, stolen for spare parts most likely. I think you'll fill in nicely.
Like
Yeah.
Lando.
They add in little bits of info, kind of like the Han books will tease backstory, where I'm like, okay, so they did this in like,
This
they
is
did
a
this
long
intentionally,
con, yeah.
but they don't ever come out and be like, here was our whole plan. Lando will have thoughts about it. This will get there. So maybe we're supposed to just be like, they hedged several bets, or it's supposed to tease Luke has a higher level of understanding now, and this
Yeah.
is all part of
It's
like
like a
a
plan.
Jedi master plan.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Also,
yeah.
in the descriptors of Jabba's palace, I must stress again, so well done that it always seemed like sort of his underground like debauchery den, but in this, it literally is like a sex and drug den. And there are like little areas designed for
It's
whatever
gnarly, yeah.
weird ass nasty thing you're into.
It's gnarly.
Jabba will provide.
There is a line that we skipped over before this that I meant to point out. When they first get there and C-3PO is talking and Bib is talking to Jabba, and they have a line about like Bib says like bargain rather than fight. This guy's no Jedi. Like
Yeah.
that stuck out to me where I'm like, the idea we think of them now as like negotiating peacekeeping kind, and it's interesting because I really think samurai is like what they were.
Yes.
But the idea of like, wait, you want to like talk instead of just fighting us? You're not a Jedi. Is like, that just speaks to a lot of.
It also like accidentally works with the prequels. Like pretty good. Yeah.
Well, I guess, but when we first see them in the prequels, they are like peacekeepers. Then they become generals.
Yeah, but even in the very first movie, they're like on a diplomatic mission. They end up killing like every single person on board the ship. So 3PO becomes a translator. R2 becomes a tray on the sail barge, and we're talking about Ula, the beautiful Twi'lek dancer, who's there. 3PO like watches things go down. Jabba wants to like get busy with Ula. Ula does not like it, and he is pissed about that and sends her to the Rancor. And Bib Fortuna and two Gamorreans enter, and then they have Chewbacca on a leash, and Boushh is there, and 3PO's shocked that Chewbacca's there.
Best, I don't know if it's a weird descriptor or if it's exactly what it should be, but I thought it was funny that the language Leia uses to talk to Jabba is called obese.
Yeah, he's obese.
I was like, that's a really funny.
When you're talking to a big slug like that, you got to speak obese.
You got to speak obese, dude.
You got to speak obese. I speak obese. I think technically I speak obese. So 3PO's excited to see Chewbacca and translates for Boushh. 50,000 for Chewbacca. Jabba's like, that's way too much. Knocks 3PO over and is like, half price. And I won't kill him. And then Boushh is like, I have a bomb. You know this scene.
It's like slightly expanded, but it's basically the same scene.
It's the same scene.
And it reads well also.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we already know that this is going to be better as a book now. Like,
sure.
we've covered what's great. Like, mostly it's the same stuff.
They also, at some point in here, describe Max Rebo, and they call him a flop-eared jizzwhaler.
Yeah, flop-eared jizzwhaler.
And that just sounds like Han being like, yo, flop-eared
Lando,
jizzwhaler.
you old flop-eared jizzwhaler.
Scruffy-looking nerf herder.
Flop-eared jizzwhaler. So Chewbacca is taken away by the guards, not before seeing Lando in the crowd. Lando has been long conning this for a long time, worming his way into a position of trust.
You know his reason for this?
Huh.
One of my favorite descriptors in this book. Lando likes helping princesses because you never know how they might thank you someday.
That is yes.
That's the most Lando thing I've ever heard. He's like, yeah,
and he's right.
This.
And he's fucking right. I'm like, I get Lando real hard. Even without the fucking, I understand Lando's mindset.
Yeah.
Boushh is there. Boushh sees Boba Fett in the hallway. Chewbacca is marched to a cell by the guards. A tentacle reaches out from one of the cells and grabs Chewbacca.
That does happen, right? Something similar to it.
Something similar. He growls at something, but it's like not as cool as it is in the book.
Right, it's a tentacle.
They put him in a cell, and then he's screaming in there, and then back in the throne room, Boushh is just walking around and moves slowly over to Han Solo and opens the switch and decarbonizes Han Solo.
Same scene, same nighttime scene, same people.
We already heard
more.
about the crazy thing that happened in that scene. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Someone who loves you occurs.
Another important detail in here is they describe Gamorrean guards as powerful pig-like brutes whose racial hatred of robots was well known.
Who knew? The pigs?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like a line they described, and it reminded me of like the unlikely named. What the fuck is his name?
Mon Calamari?
No, from the first book.
The bartender?
What is the pilot that also survives all of them? God damn it.
Wedge Antilles.
Yeah, like like the unlikely
why is he named Wedge? Yeah.
Antilles, and we're like, it's just like they're like, oh, they have a racial hatred of robots, and everyone knows that. It's just like a weird bit of information
you're
like throw out.
Cool.
You're like,
I'm just gonna think about them
I
as like a
don't know
little.
how that even.
I don't even know if that is racist, but I don't like that. It's weird.
All pigmen hate robots. That's the takeaway.
I love that.
My thought is like maybe when they passed James Kahn like a little breakdown of descriptions of stuff, it was there, and he's like, "That's all they gave me." So now you know.
All I know. That's all we know.
Racially.
Yeah.
They hate him.
And it turns out that hibernation sickness is trippy as fuck. On to chapter 2. Han realizes it's Leia. They're in Jabba's palace. We know this. The lights turn on. Jabba's like, take them away. Lando tries to take Leia away.
The cool thing that happens during all this, and because we get to go in everybody's head, everybody is fucking online. Like,
yes.
In when you watch it, it's sort of like, oh no, they got Leia. Leia's like,
she's like, I'm gonna kill this
I could
motherfucker.
kill this guy right now, but like I'd probably.
We have to wait. It's part of the
like,
plan. Yeah.
By
Lando,
not telling you the plan,
it's fucking funny because Lando ends up being the comedic release here. Lando, every time we go back to him, he's like, it's not time to play the trump card yet. He's like, no. you got to be patient. He's like, just I hope these other less seasoned people don't fuck this up for me. And then in the end, he's like, are you fucking kidding me? I got like knocked out. Like it's hilarious.
Like,
but everybody else is like all ready to go. You're
And
like, oh, you guys have been like fighting a guerrilla campaign. You guys are like truly on a better level than these guys
And
are.
there's an adult nature to it that's kind of messed up where it's like Lando and Leia are like, this is Luke's plan. We're following through with this. We've been doing it for so long. We cannot screw this up. And they're both like, whatever happens. We need to make this go down. And so Han's freaking out, like, where's Leia? What's going on? And Lando's like, dude,
Shut
she
the fuck
knows
up.
what's
Yeah.
up. Just calm down. Meanwhile, Leia's like, I'm probably gonna have to fuck this slug. Like that's literally the scene.
Literally in this, he
In the
kisses
book?
her on the lips instead of licking her face.
Yeah, in the movie, he does this weird lick thing. In this, he kisses her, and 3PO's like, oh no, they definitely banged.
Yeah.
It's great. I was like, I can't believe this is happening.
gnarly.
It's interesting because like Han is the guy that always knows what's up or like always has an angle, and so here he's not. And I think it's part of his like arc for this beginning thing is being like, I love friends. I have friends now, and I care.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
which is
Also,
kind of cool.
Great
but
character growth for him. Yeah.
Speaking of which, he ends up in the jail cell with Chewbacca at this point when he can't see, and he's like, "Oh, what is it? Isn't there some weird? Oh, Chewbacca." Remember when C-3PO says that? That's one of the weirdest things I've ever heard.
don't remember
anyway,
that.
Oh wait, the
Old
other
Chewbacca
the other
is
thing that I
such
was
a
going to
friend
say
of
about this
Return
is
of the
like
Jedi.
maybe because of the comics and the way that it's written and stuff. It's like, you know, Leia going on like missions where you're dressed like a princess and it's like weird that you're off on these missions. Here, the way that she's written and the way that she thinks, you're like, you are like a commando. Like you actually, and they've been I think they even talk about her like training from a young age. Like she has been like, she may seem all cool and whatever, or
She's a
like a
killer.
princess, but
She's
it's like,
Stone
no,
Cold
she
killer.
is.
Yeah.
Like
She has
Stone
the
Cold.
exact same vibe as watching Andor and all the characters in that show being like, if this is what I gotta do in order to get the job done, I'll do it. And that's the Leia we get in this book. And it's great.
That's
She's
why everybody
awesome.
used to know how to use a gun in the Old West, is because you just had to.
Yeah.
So Luke's outside the palace. Han and Chewie, he's like, all right, what's the plan? And Chewie's like, ah. And he's like, okay, I guess Luke's got this. And then Luke's out there, and he's learned much. And he walks in, and he duffs the Gamorrean guys right away, tricks Bib Fortuna into going to meet Jabba. He gets there. Leia's chained in the dancer's outfit
He
now.
does definitively force choke them as like his first.
Which it's very, if you don't believe that Luke is Jesus Christ, it's very clear that he chokes the shit out of those pigs in the movie.
Oh yeah,
They're
but,
like they're like,
it's just like there's a lot of like discourse about light and dark and other
Right.
stuff, and it's like, oh no.
I've played Jedi Knight Mysteries of the Sith. I know what's
But
up.
a cool quote from Luke's entrance is, as Luke and Bib enter Jabba's court, the level of tumult dropped precipitously as if Luke's presence had a cooling effect. Everyone felt the change. This is like battle meditation,
Yeah,
but like, but
exactly.
early, where it's like he's so powerful that he can just
He's like changing the
calm
vibes.
people.
Yeah, he's just
without
shifting the
which
vibes.
some people could do in real life by being like
Vibey.
whatever,
Yeah.
but it's like his like command of the Force is such that he can like chill
He
people
just vibes
out.
the room
But
down.
what's so
Yeah.
good about it is it plays out the same way that it does in the movie, where like Jabba's like, "You idiots! This guy's using Force abilities on you. You're so
and he's
dumb."
being so threatening, which is so cool.
And what's amazing about this is the line that Jabba says to Luke, where he's like, "I was killing your kind when a Jedi meant something."
Yeah.
I was like, "That is
Dude.
fire!" I was like, "Jabba,
Dude, yeah.
that's awesome."
That's why I like Jabba. Like Jabba's underused. Like there hasn't been like a full-on Hutt that blows me away yet that I've ever read, and I would love to read one. Like I love Zorba the Hutt, but he's also
That's
goofy.
because Jabba was a character first, and they made him a snake man or
Yeah.
whatever. And then from that point on, it was create a Hutt first, then give him a character.
think-
So it's like you have like Dawn Hutt, and
Yeah.
then like the little tiny
The Italian one,
Yeah,
the,
like
the Spanish one.
rather
Yeah.
than it just be we made a character and he just looks like this.
Yeah. Do you think that like the vibe was that this dude like hooked himself up to some tubes and like gavaged himself like a foie gras duck and became Jabba the Hutt, like the guy from in the fur coat from A New
No.
Hope? Like when they made up the character?
I think they were just like aliens. If it's gonna be a den of aliens, let's make some
He
cool
also
looking
looked
aliens.
different in the comics. I think like they just reimagined him
Every
better
time.
now.
Yeah.
Like
Fair enough.
They weren't like he was a human and then he ate, but he did clearly what do you call it? Glutton his way here.
It just based off the lore they're setting up in the book alone, he's been around a long time and he's done a lot of crazy shit, and now he's just like if you imagine like Island of Dr. Moreau kind of vibe of like him sitting there just like, I made all these people.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna be
That's
like
the vibes.
a big same
Yeah,
same
that's
guy.
the vibes. Baron Harkonnen is the perfect.
Yes, absolutely.
There's also like a thing that like got me thinking, and I wonder what your guys' take, or maybe it doesn't matter. When Luke is Jedi mind tricking Bib, he like goes beyond what you need to say. Like, doesn't Obi-Wan just be like, we can go about it, like, these aren't the guys, go on. But he goes on to be like, you know, you serve your master well, you'll be like, he like goes extra with Bib, and I'm like so curious, like, does that mean anything? Like, is
I
that
think
like
it just
him,
shows his.
is that like him being smart enough to be like, if I like pretend that him helping me,
It's his idea.
Yeah, he's like incepting it, he'll be more likely to like continue this ruse.
Yeah, I think he's just like showing how emotionally mature Luke is by like kind of doing it.
Understanding how he thinks.
But maybe it's also the idea of waving your hand and saying like, we're not the people you're looking for, and then driving off is a different level of forceability. Because like once you drive off, doesn't matter what they think, you're already past the checkpoint, versus I'm gonna be in a room with these idiots for however long, so I gotta like make sure this guy is on team Luke.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's the difference.
So Luke's like, Jabba, I'm gonna kill you if you don't do this, and he's like, ha ha ha, and then he like is gonna fuck him over, and then Luke
Right
tries
into
to
the pit.
Luke tries to pull a gun out of somebody's hands. He succeeds, but it doesn't work. He falls in the hole.
This happens exactly the same, but it's
Except-
so cool to read in this because he's about to John Wick. Like, he's completely calm.
He's gonna murder everyone in this room.
He's like, right then, he would just be like, all right, this is the order I'm going to kill everybody.
Yeah.
He literally was like, he gets in the pit. It's the same thing where he uses the bone to hit the button and crush as normal, except he has the thought, I could just send this motherfucker upstairs and just let him rip everybody up. And he's like, no, that's fucked up. Okay. And like, that's like where he's at though, which is not how it seems in the movie.
Also, weird bit about the Rancor since we're there. It was clearly a mutant.
Yes.
And wild is all unreason. I'm just like,
No, I was going to say that in this, it's clearly an aberration that isn't on every damn planet in every video game you play from now on.
Yeah, they just...
which is like kind of cooler and makes more sense because like, what do you like evolve to do?
Same hut, same Rancor.
And everything in that palace is like dysfunctional and weird and bizarre, and it's supposed to be that way. So it makes perfect sense you'd have a mutant creature in the basement.
Yeah, it feels Blade Runner-y.
It also makes sense why like nobody wants to go there. Like it's
Right,
like unless you're like high on spice, you don't want anything to do with that place.
Right.
Jabba's pissed. The Rancor guy's sad. Han and Chewie come in front of Jabba, and Han is like hyped to hear Luke. He's worried about Leia. Leia's like, I'm good, but I'm...
Don't worry, I have a boyfriend now.
Yeah.
He's a slug.
Yeah.
He also has in the Rancor scene, because it's Dune, they have a fear is the mind killer.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
basic quote too. So anything else?
There's
He's just because there's a lot of like inner thoughts for the Rancor stuff. We get a lot of like him thinking about the beast and how he wants to like handle it, and he's like, it's not an evil thing, it's not like purely malicious, and it's like it's just like in a bad thing. I don't know, just like a lot of like his mature, like showing that he will like
He's like
do what
thinking
needs
his
to be done,
actions through,
but he's
yeah.
like thoughtful about the way that he approaches things and doesn't just like
Specifically the
attack
opposite
it.
of last time.
Yeah, like he's like he tries very hard to not kill it when there is no other option.
That's one of the things I think this book really hammers home that isn't, I guess as we get further away from this original trilogy into more modern Star Wars, there's this vibe of like the light side and the Jedi being all about peace and love and how to resolve this peacefully. And in this book and in a lot of early Star Wars stuff, it literally was, look, the light side and the dark side aren't that different. It's how you access the power.
Yeah.
And
why.
I'm coming
Yeah.
to you, offering you a peaceful way to resolve this. But if you don't want to resolve this peacefully,
I'm gonna
I will
smack
murder
your ass down. Yeah.
everyone here. And that's the samurai aspect of what the Force, like the Star Wars Force is supposed to be. Like, fine, if I have to kill you, I will.
It's way more
And-
badass.
Yeah.
And it goes into like, because we don't know Luke if he's like light or dark from where we left off, it like feeds into some of the
He
extra
walks the
lines.
line. Yeah.
So they're going to be like, and which is like important for later. Jabba's like, I'm going to send you assholes to the Sarlacc pit and have you digested for 1,000 years. Han's like, lol. And Luke's like, I'm literally going to kill you.
Dude, Can I read the? This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
a good one because he says what he says in the movie, but that we get more. He's like, Luke only smiled. You should have bargained, Jabba. This is the last mistake you'll ever make. Luke was unable to suppress the satisfaction in his voice.
So
he
gross.
found Jabba despicable, a leech of the galaxy sucking the life from whatever he touched. Luke wanted to burn the villain, and so was actually rather glad Jabba had refused to bargain. For now, Luke would get his wish precisely. Of course, his primary objective was to free his friends, whom he loved dearly. It was this concern that guided him now above all else. But in the process, to free the universe of this gangster slug, this was a prospect that tinted Luke's purpose with
like,
an ever so slightly dark
glad I could
satisfaction.
kill
It's
this
awesome.
motherfucker.
Yeah, he's like, frankly, this is
This guy
actually,
sucks.
this is what I
I'm
want.
so hyped to be
And I
doing
think like Leia or somebody, like they like talk about other people being like, maybe I even have the quote where she like looks at him and is like, he was like smiling and that's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Like he seems bloodthirsty.
Like Luke is like totally happy with how this is playing out for him.
So here we are at the sail barge pit. You know, you got the big barge, you got the two skiffs, you got the guards, you got everybody set up.
Oh, fuck. Here's the thing that I need to like, I don't know if it's a mea culpa or whatever, but like the Weequay bit, I don't know if we talked about this personally or if this was on one of the episodes of the old podcast where
Yeah.
they had Weequay and they called him Weequay and I'm like, what the fuck? They're so disrespectful that they just call him by his species name. It's a reference. No one was certain whether Weequay was the name of their tribe or their species, or whether all in the tribe were brothers, or whether they were all just named Weequays. It was known only that these two were called by this name and that they treated all other creatures indifferently.
James Kahn was like, hey, what's the deal with these guys?
I'm just saying, like,
That's awesome.
It like to somebody was like shitting on the Mandalorian, like just referencing Weequay as
yeah.
like Weequay. I'm like, that's lazy writing. It was like, no, I wasn't smart enough to realize that this is a reference to like, maybe they're all the same. Maybe they're not. Nobody fucking knows.
You know, he wrote a note to them and was like, what is the deal with this? And they were like, we don't know. We're figuring it out too. And he was like, okay.
That's why I feel like he
We're all
he
Weequay.
got like a little snippet on all these things, and he was like, cool, you get nothing. That's what I got.
So like,
admittedly, it's great. Like just that addition is again another reason why I love this book. It just makes everything feel a little more fleshed out than I ever expected I would feel.
And we know from the documentaries that like they literally were just like, guys, make a bunch of, we need like a bunch of crazy aliens. So
Right.
a lot of these were probably just like, what do you call that one? Oh, do I have to give it a name? Weequay.
yeah. I'm having a bad week. All right. Okay. And
It'll be a weak way.
Lando's chilling. He's biding his time, as Davis was talking about. And then we get one of my favorite scenes from all the Star Wars movies, which is the gallows scene between Han and Luke, where they're like, man, we came a long way. It sucks that we're going to die now because things were going really well. And then Luke's like, actually, though, everything is still literally going according to plan. So just hang tight for like 5 seconds. I got you.
R2 about to flip the
Wait,
switch.
I am not going to. He was like, I came from this place. I left this place. I'm not going to come back here and fucking die. Get the fuck out of here.
They have most of this back and forth in the movie, but they cut out the crucial line because he's like, you're going to die here. And he's like, oh, no, don't worry. Jabba's palace was too well guarded. Lando and I had to like get you out here to get you. Like he's just acting like it's completely like
he's like,
part of the plan.
Way easier to do this.
And then Han's like, cool. I'm excited to see how this plays out.
back in the barge, everybody's nervous. Jabba makes Leia take a drink of his juice, which is so fucking weird. And she's like, all right, this sucks, but you know what? One time Darth Vader tortured me, so this is nothing.
Literally, her vibe is she like has the mentality of a rebel who's like, yeah, all right.
They get to the pit. Jabba's like, throw Luke in. They get all set. Luke flips. R2 shoots the lightsaber. He jumps off the thing. You know, all this stuff. They draw out the Leia. The Lando
through
and
the
Han.
onslaught like a light dissolving shadows.
So well done.
For a little Luke fanboy, when they like, there's no him kicking the air and missing the guy. It's just like,
That's still sick when he does that.
no, that movie is still sick.
Yeah.
But it's really sick.
The whole thing happens with Han and Lando, where Lando falls down and Han is blind, and he has to like shoot the tentacle that grabs Lando, which is fun.
There is like a little bit more.
It's longer, yeah.
No, but I'm talking about for Boba Fett. I was hoping for like something here, and he technically gets one more thing. Like he still goes in, fights Luke.
They're just like, fuck you, motherfucker.
Luke jumps off, but the first time Han tries to like while he's lining up a shot, Han swings him and he just grabs it and he's like, just sit down. I'll be there in a, like, he's like, I'll handle you in 1 sec.
Yeah.
And then he like swings the other way. And so he still dies. It's a little cooler because he's like, fuck off, Han.
Yeah.
It's just still like really unsatisfying. Like Boba Fett, unsatisfying the way he goes out to me.
I never worried about it because I never like lived in the 80s and like didn't care about Boba Fett when I saw the movie, so it didn't.
I guess for as long as you've been alive, there is more.
But
Boba Fett.
Now that I'm older and like I like Boba Fett and I'm thinking about, oh wow, that's how they did Boba Fett in the movie, even though they like played him up as a guy in the last one.
Well,
that's why it hurts. Like I don't care about it as a guy who wasn't there for the marketing because I didn't care about him after I saw the first movie. I just thought he was like the same as a Weequay.
I think it was supposed to like
they're all called Boba Fett?
Yeah.
I think it was supposed to establish power levels.
Yeah.
Is what they wanted to. It doesn't translate well in the movie, but the idea of like Boba Fett is better than Han, but no bounty hunter is better than a Jedi.
Right.
Like that. And they tried to hammer it home, I guess, in the prequels as well, when it was Django and Mace just like ends him so quickly.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, all right, he's powerful, but like a Jedi is just going to be better. And I'm here for all that. When Vader kills those people in the hallway, I want more of that. I like when Jedi are just overpowered against normal people because it establishes something like, I don't like that the Duke could stab a Jedi with a knife. Like that sucks to me. I don't like that idea.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like you literally manipulate time and space. Like,
you knew the knife was coming.
yeah,
You're
like,
a Jedi.
what do you mean you missed that?
Leia strangles Jabba to death. They get back on the skiff like deck. They shoot the deck gun into the deck. They swing on the rope. You know how it goes. It's Return of the Jedi. They land on the thing. They all get out. R2 and C-3PO land upside down in the sand, just like always.
Yep.
They show up and they have like this little scene.
Like a little goodbye moment.
They have like another. Yeah, the sandstorm is still popping.
There is just another like Luke line that I'm going to read real quick just before we get off that. But the deck gunners on the barge were lining up this human chain in their sight for the coup de grace when Luke stepped in front of them, laughing like a pirate king. He lit his lightsaber before they could squeeze off a shot. A moment later, they were smoking corpses.
That's so fucking crazy.
Luke like was having a good. He was like, sorry, 6 months I had to wait and plan, and I get to kill everybody now.
Honestly,
he kills everybody.
He was riding such a high. It makes so much more sense why he was like so sad in Last Jedi.
Yeah, it makes
to come down. He's like,
oh man,
nobody lets me kill everybody.
where's my titties
anymore.
at?
Yeah.
It absolutely feels like when you play a game you love but on easy mode and you know all the combos and you're just like enjoying the experience of murdering. Like that's Luke in the entire beginning of this book/movie. Is just like I
call
better
them
at this than
paper
you.
people. Yeah.
And he did try and do it bloodless. He tried to do the passive.
Yeah, and
the
they said
pacifist
no,
run.
and he's like, okay.
all right.
They're kind of standing
All
around.
of you are dead. Literally
that's it.
everybody was killed by him.
They're kind of.
Everyone.
They're kind
Except
of.
Jabba, I guess.
Well,
No,
but-
and Boba.
Yeah. Well,
But it was his sister, so family murder.
family murder.
You're right. It's all in the family.
Yep.
And Han marries Leia, so
family
bing,
murder.
bang, boom. So yeah, they get R2 and C-3PO out of the fucking sand. But in this one, they like hang out, talk about how they've changed, and then they're like, "All right, good chat. We're gonna go." I think
See
it's
you
like
guys
I think
later.
it's all in space, like in like voiceover, kind of.
That's
in the
why I'm
movie.
like, I think that scene is where his goggles and look must have been from.
I think it's from the beginning, genuinely, because it's like, who is this? And it's Luke.
But in the book, it's just him building a lightsaber. He's
But they
never
don't.
decided.
But they don't say it's Luke. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think the point was that he was like welding together a fucking lightsaber, and you don't know what's happening, and you're like, "Who's this man in the desert?" Because he's covered.
Oh,
and then
you're
it's
right.
Luke. Yeah,
It's like one paragraph. It's so clearly a movie sequence.
yes. I would love to see the scene. I've never seen it. I've never seen it.
Yeah.
So Luke's like, I'm going back to the fleet, but I got to go see an old friend. You know this part.
It is the same vibe as the end of Hoth when they're all sitting there and they're like, "Where are you gonna go?" He's like, "I've got to go, find this dude on Dagobah." And they're like, "All right, we'll see you later, Luke."
Yeah,
Well, and I think
Lando and Han are
at
like,
this
"Hey,
point-
debt settled."
at this point, like, I don't think Luke knows that they're about to go like do the last attack,
Right.
Because I think in this point he's like going back to be like, I'm re-enrolling in the Yoda school. Like, let's do this until it's done.
I don't think he knows. I think he just kind of needs to go back there and be like,
Because he told Yoda he'd come back.
I think he just
Right,
is like, "Hey, like that was
But
crazy."
I'm saying like in the movie, or maybe because we've seen it a bunch, like it's like him stopping off and then he's going to rendezvous. But here it seemed like he was like, I have to go like finish training.
Do you think he
Yoda
never went
first.
back to Yoda
What do you mean?
after Empire Strikes Back?
No.
He does here.
No, but I mean, like,
No,
do you think
no,
this
no,
is the
no.
very next time he saw
This
Yoda?
is the next time he goes back.
Yeah, he does not. He spends the rest of his time trying to save Han. That's why they formulate the plan.
So how does he
And
learn?
This is his first chance to go back. He learns by doing.
I guess
Shadow of the Empire is literally the story that tells it.
I guess that's true. I
And
guess
he
that's
has,
true.
Well, and he
But
has
we didn't
Yoda.
know that yet.
True.
Yeah.
He has Obi-Wan's
Saber?
journal, or do we know about that yet, or is that from later stuff? I don't know. But
Obi-Wan's journal is from like new canon, right?
Oh, I don't know. I have no clue.
how does he
Learn?
make the lightsaber?
I think it comes to him, I think is the vibe. I think
Okay.
because like the way they talk about it later, Vader and him, he's like,
In the books we'll get in the future, they'll fill in gaps on this. For
I'm sure they will, but I
Well,
just mean like
at
how
the
what are we
time-
supposed to think is like I don't know how much time has passed.
He's in Obi-Wan's place, right? Like making it, so it's like
so maybe he like
picked up
has
where he left
been
off.
talking
or-
to the ghosts. I don't know, but yeah. So before we get to that, Star Destroyer's over Endor again. Vader is watching the shuttle. It shows up. The Emperor shows up. He feels a surge of electric power. There's thousands of troops waiting for the Emperor. He's described as frail and sinister. Vader kneels. We get a lot of insight into Vader's ambitions that we don't get from
the line. I don't know if you have this, but the one where he's like,
Vader's pulse and breathing.
Vader's inner feelings on the Emperor showing up, and he's like, the void in his soul and how he wants to make the universe just like him.
There is
Like, that's dark.
There's a bunch, but Vader's pulse and breathing were machine regulated, so they could not quicken. But something in his chest became more electric around his meeting with the Emperor. He could not say how. A feeling of fullness, of power, of dark and demon mastery, of secret lusts, unrestrained passion, wild submission. All these things were in Vader's heart as he neared his Emperor. These things and more. That line is like the coolest line about him and without saying anything. It's like once I'm out, like it's kindling for your brain, where you're like, what the fuck?
It also
Like,
works.
Oh, what are you like? Demon mastery, secret lust, submission, all this like stuff. Like, what is your relationship?
It's trying to show like how much more there is than Vader, and I love it because I love that they go like in this version, right? It's exciting because they go. Vader was thinking about like his son, and he's thinking about like the Emperor and how that's gonna all go down, and then the Emperor says, "Hey, don't get too hasty. I'm gonna train your son," and so it immediately creates this like tension.
But it also
I also have the other one. Hold on, let me read it.
Sure,
This will be relevant. Vader felt complete at the Emperor's side. Though the emptiness at his core never left him, it became a glorious emptiness in the glare of the Emperor's cold light, an exalted void that could encompass the universe, and someday would encompass the universe when the Emperor was dead. For that was Vader's final dream. When he
Yes.
learned all he could of the dark power from this evil genius, to take that power from him, seize it, and keep its cold light at his own core. Kill the Emperor and devour his darkness and rule the universe. Rule with his son at his side.
what's great about this is it isn't like the implication that Vader and his son are gonna like make things right in the universe. Vader is like a broken man who has a hole in his chest that he cannot
Full-on
fill,
Sith.
and he is going to burn the galaxy down,
Dude,
just because he hurts.
on the landing
then-
pad
and
when
then-
he says it's too late for me is so good. All right, anyway.
Well, the next part of that is, for that was his other dream, to reclaim his boy, to show Luke the majesty of his shadow force, why it was so potent, why he'd chosen rightfully to follow its path, and Luke would come with him, he knew. That seed was sown. They would rule together, father and son. His dream was very close to realization. He could feel it. It was near. Each event fell into place as he nudged it, with Jedi subtlety, as he pressed with delicate, dark strength.
Yeah.
This is the kind of shit where, because they do a bunch of other talk about like patience versus passion, that I was like, oh, they really did lean into here him
was
being
a
dark
Jedi,
Jedi,
yeah.
where you're like, I want all that stuff, but things need to be precise.
We gotta keep
I
moving,
can't-
yeah.
The entire time when he stops the lightsaber, like Luke attacking the Emperor, it's not because of his like loyalty to the Emperor, which is what I always assumed. He was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Not yet. Like he's like, even Vader knew like, I need the Emperor a little bit more
To break
like,
my son down.
break
Yeah.
him before I can do it. And it's like, it totally recontextualized Vader. And again, it's why I'm like, I am good. But there's also a lot of cool metaphor shit here, because you know that thing where like people make mistakes and they can't really admit it to themselves, but like they act in weird ways where it's like they want you to know why they did something.
Right.
There's a lot about like Vader and especially his death, where it's like the metaphor of like a father that chose a bad path but wants to justify, where he's like, no, you don't get it, kid. The world isn't what you think it is. Like, there's a reason. I'm going to show you this dark force. You're going to see that what I did was the right thing to do. Like, that's the energy I get here. And it's like he needs Luke to justify his own behavior.
It's a selfish existence that he has, because he's literally saying, I want to just, like, the universe itself, F it. Only I can be in charge, and I will burn it all to the ground to make that happen. But I want my son to be there to see it, which is so self-serving.
weakness.
It's not about
He's going to show him the majesty of the Shadow
It's the
Force
weakness.
and why he'd chosen rightly to follow its path. It's like such a like,
And he doesn't even think he did it right. He just like him telling his son about it is what makes it the right thing.
Yeah, he needs that to happen because he wants his son to see
Yeah.
that, like, look, no, all these bad things I'm doing, you will learn to love me no matter what.
it comes full circle in the end. Like, I know a lot of people are like, I cried during this thing, and I usually like don't think of that. I actually was like in tears in the expanded death, because they do a good job of like bringing that full circle. Him like sort of being like, I killed my whatever, and then like him finally realizing like he fucked up and that he wasted this whole life. And it's like, I didn't really get that in the same way with the movie, with his like.
It seems
Because
fast.
in the background was going, oh.
Well, he
oh,
says
the
like
entire time.
we'll get to the quotes when we get there, but like again, he just says like the couple things like, let me look at you with my own eyes, like tell your sister you were, like that kind of stuff.
It seems like fast in the movie that he has this like transition.
I mean, it's the end of a film.
But
like,
the
climax
truth,
has happened.
the truth is, it is fast, because even when we're reading him now talking about how he's going to be and what we are almost sniffing out that he's kind of lying to himself, and all it takes literally is for him to see that his son is actually the business for like 1 second. Like, he thinks until that moment, like where he throws the Emperor in that hole, that his son is going to bend to the Emperor today, right now. And he realizes that his son is stronger than the Emperor. And he goes, oh my God. And just like immediately, and it just shows like how powerful what Luke has done is. It's not that he convinced Darth Vader. It's that the very truth of Luke's existence destroyed Darth Vader's entire reality.
That he was like so legit that using the light side, he could like beat Vader, and then was like, I'm not going to fight.
Yeah.
You don't win. You can kill me, but like you don't win. And then I think also there's probably something about him seeing his like son in pain, where he just like snapped out of his bullshit.
He just realized that his son is just going to die and nothing's going to happen, and it's because his son is a better man than him. But like, so, okay, real quick, before we get there, Yoda's already dying by the time
there's like a
Luke
lot
gets
more
to
before we get there.
Yeah.
Not really, though. Like, really not that much. Like, it all just kind of goes from
It
here.
is the same as the movie.
Yeah. Dagobah, Luke's there, Yoda's there, they're dying. He tells him that is his father. He tells him, you got to be careful of the Emperor, because the Emperor's going to fuck you up.
Shit, one last thing from that scene with the Emperor and him. Just a quote, because the Emperor raised his head a degree, scanning all of the possible futures. Everything is proceeding as I have foreseen. He, like Vader, had plans of his own, plans of spiritual violation, the manipulation of lives and destinies. He chuckled to himself, savoring the nearness of his conquest, the final seduction of the young Skywalker. Spiritual violation
Man's a lich.
is a like
Pure lichery.
term that I'd never heard before, but I was like, ooh, but also like,
That's like The
ooh,
Exorcist.
You're a good villain. Like, what do you mean? Oh, I guess, wait, is spiritual violation just him corrupting Luke?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what he's
Never
implying,
mind.
but like,
you
the
know what?
phrasing is amazing.
It's like
It
The
is very
Exorcist. Yeah,
fancy.
it's
It's
great.
just like it's a good choice of words where I'm like, that's disgusting. I love it.
Yeah. Luke meets the Obi-Wan ghost, and he's like, bro, what the fuck? You did me wrong with this. And he was like, looking back, I fucked up.
Yoda said it should have been your sister.
Yoda said it was cool. Yoda said it was cool, so I did it. But now we're here, so who's really at fault? No, he doesn't do that. Obi-Wan takes full responsibility, and like kind of Luke's not mad at him though. Also,
There's a lot of difference though in this, like subtle differences that make it different.
not that different.
Well, first of all, like as an adult, the idea of like the truths that we cling to depend greatly on our point of view. When you like live long enough, you're like, oh, people just like pick a point of view and that alters their lives for better or for worse.
That's the funniest thing about the book that sucked, the certain point of view book, is that like what that phrase is from Obi-Wan being like, technically I'm not an asshole, and like that's what the book is. I don't know, it's funny.
But here they talk about that it was Yoda who made Yoda forbade Obi-Wan from telling him earlier, which was kind of a revelation, but that their plan was always to tell him. It's just that like when he was young and they weren't expecting him to run off, like there wasn't time. He just left before that could happen. And they also are kind of like we see it as a victory because we have seen all these movies and stuff, but Yoda's like, did you fucking win? I don't, like you saved them, but like
that sucked, bro.
Like that, yeah, like
yeah,
okay, like now you like
done
are
better.
telling me you can't even do what you need to do. Like you weren't ready. You like cheated it.
Yeah. And so he's like, but the tone is like, everybody's like, we fucked up. We're going to do better. Leia is your sister. He's like, what? And he's like, yeah, it's true. Don't get her involved though, because she's going to die. I love you. Goodbye. I'm dead. Ugh. And he dies. And then Luke's like, oh shit. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And he just goes.
I got to go meet that fleet.
He also like, Obi-Wan takes a lot of credit here for the fall of Vader, which was like a revelation to him. And then, I don't know, I took a bunch of quotes, but then
Vader says it, or Emperor says it too. He's like, oh yeah, and we know how good Obi-Wan is at training Jedi, right, Vader? Like says some shit like that later.
Sure. Oh, and then here, you should not think of that machine as your father. It was the teacher speaking again. When I saw what had become of him, I tried to dissuade him, to draw him back from the dark side. We fought. Your father fell into a molten pit. When your father clawed his way out of that fiery pool, the change had been burned into him forever. He was Darth Vader without a trace of Anakin Skywalker, irredeemably dark.
That's the moment.
Scarred, kept alive only by machinery and his own black will.
It was Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan was the one who said.
Yeah. It's one of those things that we questioned, where do we know that from? It clearly was in the book.
One of the great,
the cultural ethos.
One of the great mysteries of Star Wars in my mind solved after years.
Same with Palpatine. We were like, where did Palpatine come from? And it literally is just like
the first line of the first book. Bam.
And it's like, oh, all right.
Oh, and then yeah. Well, that's not that important. Oh, yes. Ben continued his narrative. When your father left, he didn't know your mother was pregnant. Your mother and I knew he would find out eventually, but we wanted to keep you both as safe as possible for as long as possible. So I took you to live with my brother Owen in Tatooine.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan's brother is Owen, not Anakin's brother. He says here, I took you to live with my brother Owen in Tatooine.
Isn't that right?
No, Owen was
always his uncle.
Yeah.
Like, Anakin was his brother.
Anakin was his brother?
Remember,
Because
in the beginning, you've got too much of his father in him. Like, it's always... Uncle Owen has always been related to, I guess, in the prequels, they make him stepbrothers.
Yeah, Shmi got with the dad of Owen.
Okay.
And so they were like stepbrothers or step cousins or whatever the hell.
And they honored that kind of relationship between the two of them in Obi-Wan, the show. Obi-Wan.
I'm just saying, this is the first time they've ever been like, my brother was Owen.
It makes perfect sense why that would be the case. And I do believe that at one point it made it like, I think that at this point in time, that was true. I genuinely do.
But in A New Hope in Star Wars, like,
Uncle Owen and
his father was Anakin Skywalker. I mean, he wasn't Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker at the same time, but like his father was Anakin Skywalker, who was the brother of Owen.
I know, but I'm just saying like, that could all be a lie.
It would be weird for it to have been a lie.
Why would Luke be put with his actual family?
Because at the time, Anakin Skywalker wasn't Darth Vader, so it didn't like make a lot of sense there. But why would there be a scene where like Aunt Beru's like, you know, like they have like a quiet moment where if you both knew it was a lie, you wouldn't like exchange like you've got too much of his father
unless
in
they're
it.
just his real parents and they know his father.
Also, back then they repeatedly talk about how good of a pilot Anakin Skywalker was and how
they might have
much
known
like
him.
his father he was. Obi-Wan's like not a pilot. I don't know.
But maybe Obi-Wan is from Tatooine. Like I'm just saying like
it could just be
where people's heads were at is very different than where they are now. That's all I'm
sure,
saying.
but it could be wrong, and maybe it's a like correction here because like they just in an Empire put into Star Wars the idea of surprise, like lineage. So maybe here's a new thing, but I don't know. It was
but
weird.
it does make sense, right? Like if Obi-Wan hangs out like off to the side and leaves him with his brother to raise Luke, Obi-Wan can kind of like come around. It makes sense.
But it also doesn't make sense because Owen is like, I don't want that damn wizard near you, kid. If they're brothers.
Well, but like Harry Potter, right? Same deal.
Except for famously, Harry was not raised well.
But was Luke raised well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty well, yeah.
Fine.
He was raised well enough to be like bored by like living the farming life.
Yeah,
that's fair enough.
I think like what could make sense if they were brothers, Obi-Wan and Owen, would just be like Obi-Wan still has stuff to like do as a like one of the few remaining Force users with that much power. I don't really know what the old canon or even the new canon really has him doing in between stuff besides like overseeing, but he's not training Luke, so it's like I don't know, it could make sense this way that he's like, listen, no offense, but you don't have any powers, so just do the farming shit. I have to go do spy shit.
What if
I got little
but I'll
baby
come back
Leia.
for Christmas.
Yeah.
What if he meant like Brotherhood of Man?
Could be.
He's like, my brother.
Yeah, he could just be like that kind of guy, touchy-feely.
Yeah, he's like, he looked out for you, and I respect him.
My
as
brother,
a brother.
man, Owen Lars.
Yeah, Owen Lars.
Okay, I'm going to keep going because we're like, I know there's not that much different after this point, but there's a few things, but I just want to keep. So we're in the throne room. Vader and the Emperor there. Vader's kneeling. They're at Endor. He's talking about like, it's crazy that we did all this stuff. Like I brought the Empire, the Republic down to raise the Empire. We're getting to the end of everything.
Also, no indication that the Empire is only 40 years old in this.
Also, the sister revelation. There's no. I have been waiting for them to be like, okay, everyone that wrote all this love story, what are you going to do? And they're only. Luke sorted through his multiplicity of feelings. The love he'd always felt for Leia, even from afar, now had a clear basis.
Yeah.
That's all they address on what's now like across years of comics. Oh, will they, won't they? They're just like, oh, that's why I liked her. And we're not talking about the kissing the sister
we're
thing
already
ever
at
again.
the point. We're already at the point long ago where they started just like changing shit because the director.
Well, and like Han came in to the mix, but they still even in the most recent thing of comics.
But that
there
was
was still
mostly
kind of
Leia
shit where like
being upset.
Leia being jealous of him and stuff like
I
that.
don't know who made the call in the end, but I don't think they thought twice when they wiped out the old canon last time. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
when Disney took over, I don't think it was like an even concern to them. You know, I think that just the tier, like we always talk about the tiers of canon. I think that first tier of movies is like quite a bit higher than the second tier, even in 1983. But yeah, he's like, we're going to send the fleet to the other side of Endor. I have a plan. We're going to defeat the rebels today. Luke's going to join us today. It's a good vibe. It's a good vibe. It's a good vibe. Back at the around in orbit of Sullust, which I didn't know was a thing in the movie. The fleet.
And that's
Probably not as
why
fleshed out.
Is that like why Nien Nunb was there? Because he's a Sullustan?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that was like, if they were like, he's a Sullustan in this book once, but
We have to have at least one.
They did sort of redo in that last scene. They like you remember how like the first thing we ever fucking read was this cool breakdown of the Republic and the Emperor. They basically like did a little paragraph redoing that, except that the Emperor, it was like his point of view, was like, and so I through manipulation
I did all this,
got
yeah.
all this stuff instead of him being like the dupe.
But it also, again, the vibe of the Empire seems like this man has spent decades and decades and decades making this happen. It's been around forever. It does not feel like a literal brand new thing that
from 20 years ago.
Yeah, like it's a different experience entirely.
That's why George messed up with the Clone Wars.
Absolutely.
But that's okay.
Completely agree.
That's okay. It doesn't really matter that much, but like when you think about it, it doesn't make
But there's
that much
something
sense. Yeah.
there's something better about the idea of an empire that is solidified, that is like, how do you fight against
changing
that?
the order
That
is
has been
much
around
more
for
epic,
hundreds
much more
of
epic.
years. Like
yeah.
that, yeah, then something's been around for 20. Like that's just, we don't like what you're doing, we're fight back against
Like
it, versus like
Paul Atreides changed some things.
Yeah, which had been for thousands of years.
Luke did not. Yeah.
Well, and they don't, in this, they don't talk about, let me just read the paragraph, actually. Back in the days when he was merely Senator Palpatine, the galaxy had been a republic of stars, cared for and protected by the Jedi Knighthood that had watched over it for centuries. But inevitably, it had grown too large, too massive a bureaucracy had been required over too many... Sorry, there's so many buttons on Apple stuff. I'm just not going to touch it. Where was I?
Over too many.
Too massive, required over too many years in order to maintain the Republic. Corruption had set in. A few greedy senators had started the chain reaction of malaise, some said, but who could know? A few perverted bureaucrats, arrogant, self-serving, and suddenly a fever was in the stars. Governor turned on governor, values eroded, trusts were broken, fear had spread like an epidemic in those early years, rapidly and without visible cause. And no one knew what was happening or why. And so Senator Palpatine had seized the moment through fraud, clever promises, and astute political maneuvering. He managed to get himself elected head of the council, and then through subterfuge, bribery, and terror, he named himself emperor. The thing that's interesting here is, like, one, over the years, it does definitely make it sound like it wasn't just like 10 years ago. But also, like, governor turned on governor, and where we are at with what we've seen of governors, it's very different from the way that now the Republic looked. Where was it like, was it a civil war? Not the Clone Wars, but was it like star systems fighting star systems? And so he came in to like broker it. Like,
it felt like it was I felt like the Clone Wars was like almost like a catalyst to a larger war. Like, I feel like calling it the Clone Wars is like almost a disservice to what really happened.
But this, they reference so specifically the Clone Wars, and they talk about things like genetic manipulation.
Right.
Here, they don't even talk about a war. They just talk about like governors turning on governors. And to this point, Governor Tarkin is the only person that we've seen, and he's a military leader.
In real life, wars start after like decades of like.
I mean, this I think is the interesting thing. I think timeline-wise, it's flipped in that, because in this book, it straight up is like the Emperor is old, like beyond old, because he is filled with force power. Like, that dude is corrupted and
evil
aged,
wizard,
and he's been around for a while. So the implication then, I thought, was the Emperor taking over happened long before the Clone Wars, which is where shit went down. And so, like, that
we don't get a clear timeline, so it could be that,
because the Clone Wars at least means that Obi-Wan, like, in my mind, I was like, oh, the Emperor's probably been around behind the scenes long before Obi-Wan even came on the scene. And then the Jedi, like, died off after post-Clone Wars.
That's kind of how it feels. Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't make, like, regardless of what I think about the Clone Wars as of the prequels, they at least put a position, they make it such that, like, an emperor would need to be appointed, or, like, somebody would need to.
In order to do that.
Yeah, and this just, it's kind of broad that it could go any number of ways, but it was, I guess this is now like the new information, like this is the most recent, this is how we got here, retcon of this. So I just didn't know if you guys thought, like, if this did anything for you, and if you guys got any new insights from it.
I mean, I've always been a fan of the Emperor being just like the idea that he was a guy who then was scarred by lightning that made him look old never sat right with me. It was always weird as hell.
I care so much more about the mythology of it than the
like
specifics.
Being evil, also, and letting evil turn you like old and disgusting is like super
I didn't need to see
I don't know that I like got the quote, but this is like, this book, I think it's actually when you finally see his face, they talk about it, but it's that. It's like being evil and using the Force. It's not like
makes you look terrible.
It's not like a guy did I'm rubber, you're glue to his Force lightning and
and he was like, I'm old now. It literally is
threw him out a window.
He's been around so long, and he's so filled with like hate and rage that
he's alive.
Like an old evil. He is the evil wizard at the end of all the, like, Conan. He's straight up just like, I am the evil wizard.
Yeah. Is Mace Windu alive?
No, dude. Windu's gone.
He died that day?
He lives on in your
in this version of the story?
Like that day when Mace Windu went out
the window, dead.
He dead?
Gone.
Gone?
Yes, 100%.
Even though Obi-Wan and Anakin, like, earlier in, like, the prequel trilogy just leapt out of a building and lived?
He got blasted by Anakin. Anakin trumps all effects.
Okay, all right. We're on home one. We learned about the deflector shield. Mon Mothma is the elected leader of Rebel Alliance. She's talking about the Bothan spies.
They give her like a little Endor, like,
yeah, it's like they went above and beyond. It's very clear. Akbar is like, here's the deal. The shield is up. We got to go down on the planet. Lando's going to lead the fighter attack. Madine.
In this, because it's just like basically how you organize a rebellion, but they do talk about like that she organized like in the days after it, like cells, and that they were unaware of each other's identity, each of which was responsible for inciting revolt against the Empire. Which,
Andor, bang. Yeah.
So I'm like, literally, like this paragraph is like the pitch for Andor.
Yep.
Yeah, Endor. Coincidence?
Do you think Andor has ever been to Endor? Oh no, he hasn't made it.
So Han defies all expectations by turning out to be the idiot who's leading the ground, because Leia turns to Han and is like, what kind of asshole would say yes to that job? And he's like, well, honey, I guess you gotta find out. And
Puts on a cardigan.
Chewbacca's gonna go. I'm gonna stay here. I'm tired. I'm gonna play PlayStation. So they go.
He's probably a racing sim guy.
Luke is like being weird, and he's like, I'll tell you. Don't worry. It'll be fine. And the Falcon is in the docking bay. Chewie's loading it up. Han and Lando have their moment of like, hey. And it feels like Han just gives him the Falcon for keeps in this book. I'm not sure, but that's what it feels like.
I mean, that was the vibe in the movie,
he's still
too.
Like, take her, she's the fastest. And he's like, don't worry, I'll give her back, not a scratch on her.
But
also,
it feels like the subtext that was kind of like not so real in the movie was that actually what's happening is
They
that
all thought they were
Han
going to
is-
be dead
that's
by
what
the
I'm
end
saying,
of this, yeah.
Actually what's happening is that Han is walking away from his spaceship for the last time and telling Lando to take good care of his baby with the pretext that he's lending it to him for a second. That's how it reads in the book much better than it does in the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're going, like, this is a full-on last-ditch, the only thing we can do now to save the galaxy, we probably are all going to die vibe.
They go to the moon.
His line is so beautiful. Like, I just got a funny feeling.
This is the greatest book that Davis has ever read, I think.
I just got a funny feeling, Han mused. Like, I'm not going to see her again. He thought of the times she'd saved him with her speed, of the times he'd saved her with his cunning,
the time
his
he
touch.
turned her into from a
He
droid
thought of
into
the
his-
universe they'd slept together, of the shelter she'd given him, of the way he knew her inside and out, of the times they'd slept in each other's embrace, floating still as a quiet dream in the black silence of deep space. Get fucked. If you don't like that, fuck off. That's just like the
it's a
most
bit
beautiful
extra.
way to describe a man and his ship.
It's a bit extra, but it's beautiful.
No, it's
Like,
awesome.
what else are we doing? We have a fucking podcast deep diving into everything. Extra? This is exactly the right amount.
You know, just saying what I think about stuff is what the show is, right?
Also, a weird thing that's also in this chapter, Vader's perspective on the Death Star has changed radically. He thrilled to the sight of this monument to the dark side of the Force. Icily, he caressed it with his gaze.
He has big plans now. Now it's his Death Star.
You think they would have learned?
I wonder if because it was Tarkin's, but now he's like,
But also, it's
No.
like he's going to be the emperor now in his mind. His son is here.
But
The pieces
guys-
are coming into place. He's like, this is my empire.
also, it is twice as big and twice as powerful. They say that, so maybe he's
loves
like,
them big.
Yeah.
okay, well, before it wasn't that powerful, but now it's got a head.
Right, like, at first, he like, dealt with it, he wasn't into it, then 4 years went by, and they just brought it back again, and this time he was really into the idea. Thank God for fantasy, man.
Yeah, never happens in real life. Okay, so they show up at the like Death Star, like Superstar Destroyer zone. Luke's Wi-Fi attaches to Vader's network. They both know each other are there. Vader's like, they're like, sir, there's this like weird ship. He's like, let him go. We'll deal with him later. It's them, but that's okay. I got this. It's my plan. And that's how that goes. And then they're on the moon and they get to the bunkers, the shield bunkers. Han and Chewie jump out and engage. Luke and Leia follow. They get ambushed by more troopers. The two attacking Luke and Leia take off on their bikes.
Do you think, just based off of this and the plot of this and Vader's plan, do you think somewhere there is a longer version of the script where Luke's intricate plan to save his friends from Jabba, and it shows like what a Jedi can do planning, is mimicked by Vader's plan of the slow rollout of his long con of the Emperor and Luke, and he's like, oh no, I want them to do this. I want them to sneak in.
You're definitely thinking about Return of the Jedi like a writer now. Now you're like,
Well, it's like
thinking
the two, like you can see the duels of these two people who are both father and son, and they're like cunning.
I think you're doing more work than Star Wars wants to do.
Sure,
I think
sure,
you're
sure.
doing something more structurally intricate.
You're like,
That's
you're
exactly the
you're
line
like
that I was
asking
talking about.
the
Yeah.
author if he meant all this stuff, and he's like,
Oh, whatever.
secretly in his
Yeah.
head, he's like, I'm glad that you got.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
That's why
I didn't, but I'm going to tell you that I did.
That's why I'm
because
going
it
out of
makes
my
me sound
way.
smarter.
That's why I'm going out of my way to say, like, I don't think that he sat down to write a masterpiece and like executed on that. I do think he sat down and shot out his Return of the Jedi thing and did some like fun, like did like a very like self-pleasing job of doing some beautiful writing and kind of trying to just directly translate and explain what's happening to the page, and accidentally landed on the perfect way to write Star Wars for 20 years. That's what I think happened. That's why I don't want to dress this up as like this genius did this. I think
I meant like
Wait, with James Kahn,
script.
I'm not like he's a genius. Like he's doing what the movie did.
Right.
I'm saying he probably just took the notes. They did a bunch of drafts, and
Yeah.
there's like 90 other writers. Like he's just doing a good job of packaging the thoughts that didn't necessarily make it onto the screen page because you can't.
So like flowery language, right? Like, do I love it? Of course I do. If you read my writing, you know that I love flowery language. My thing is, like, Star Wars doesn't do the extra work of like making the like choices that he makes in the language like resonate beyond the moment that you're just absorbing the language surface level. So for me, right, like that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think he's like, that's what I'm saying. It's a little extra. It's not like
but
bad.
I think that extra.
It's extra. I love it. I thought
Yeah.
you would love
No,
it because
I do love it.
in the movie, Vader's like, my master, a small rebel force has penetrated the shield and landed on Endor. In the book, he wrote, Vader rose as the throne swirled around him
Yeah,
and the
I
Emperor
know.
faced him. They made eye
get it.
contact from light years and a soul's breadth away. Across that abyss,
You just got to read
Vader
some more. You just
responds,
got to read some more books. That's
I'm
really
just
it.
like, I
think
thought you would love this.
I do love it.
I think the difference is that we've read a lot of Star Wars comics lately,
Yeah.
which aren't heavy on dialogue
Right.
and are more visual. And so coming back to something where it's like an actual ass book,
Yep.
where there's actual real ass writing and it's in depth and it's flowery and it gives us like, I'm with Davis. The minute I sat down to read this, I was like, this might be the best book we've read so far.
Yeah.
Like I felt it in my core. That may not be true.
I agree.
But coming off of all the comics in a row and hitting this, I was like, oh my God, I love books.
I just
love
don't think
books.
I'm just saying it's not a masterpiece. That's not what's great about it. What's great about it is that we found this like beautiful balance of everything, and I actually think that this is
I'm not saying it's a masterpiece. I feel like there's something you don't like about it. It feels like you're going out of your way to be like, he wrote it too fast or something.
everything that you like. You have no problems with.
No,
No thoughts beyond I like this.
No, I liked it a lot. I really have no
I'm just
problem.
not
telling
saying
you-
that this is the best book ever
I'm just
written.
telling you very clearly.
I'm just saying it's like
articulately.
very, very well written for a Star Wars book, and it like nails the whole thing.
I don't know
need it
what's-
to be the best book ever written. It's just really well written.
I don't know what's confusing about me articulating this to you. I'm telling you exactly what I think. There's no positive or negativity attached to this. I'm just saying that what is beautiful about this is that it is like a sort of pulpy, sort of extra self-indulgent match, much like the movie Return of the Jedi, and yet it works for me. Same thing here, and I think that this is actually better because it actually does more service to this sort of grand, crazy opera of the thing. Because it's not
give
that
me
deep.
give me a couple books that I should read that will like blow me out of the water.
The Great Gatsby.
You know what? I haven't read that since high school. I'll read it again.
Like, read you know what? Actually, just write the last page of The Great Gatsby.
I must stress for those at home who are curious what Alex is going through right now, he has a James T. Kirk level of hatred for anyone named Kahn.
Yeah.
And just
that's really what
cannot
it is.
handle this.
It's truly just that I can't.
He doesn't like Khans in any shape or form.
Really, what it is like Kirk, I don't accept the stakes that are before me.
Thanks
and
for
I'm-
running with this. You
yeah.
Kobayashi Maru
Yeah,
this.
Kobayashi Maru this. I'm just saying, there's some way that I can say that I like this book and still have things that I think are like, let's be honest, like, it's not elevating this book to another level, the language. The language is just, like, kind of cool in the way that, like, a dude soloing in his guitar, like, on his guitar in his garage is. You're like,
don't think it's
bro,
about- I
that's
don't think
sick.
it's about the book
I guess I just
elevation.
completely 100% disagree. I'm like the prose is absolutely elevating it. Like the way that
It
everything
is.
is described, both its description, one, it has more information, which is good, and it dresses it up all
It's
nice.
just not Shakespeare. There's
But
no.
that's
there's
fine.
nothing beyond the.
I think the difference though is
But I guess I don't need it to be Shakespeare. Although I would argue that
exactly what I'm saying. It's exactly what I'm saying.
But the idea of this book, I think I'm with Davis on the language being used and the way it's being told. It's Star Wars Return of the Jedi, to me at this point, is a tale that has been told numerous times in different ways.
Yeah.
And out of all those versions, this is clearly my favorite. It is a well done version of the tale of that movie.
Yeah.
Of that story of the end of the saga. I just like the way it's done, and it elevates that tale. Not necessarily books, but that tale of Luke fighting Vader on the Death Star. It makes it better overall for me, and I love that about it.
100%. Still not high literature, but what I'm saying with this
I don't think you could say any pulpy Star Wars book was high literature.
Exactly, but that's what I'm saying. Like, this is where we found the perfect balance. Like, there has been Alan Moore Star Wars that was too high concept. There was Alan Moore, like, writing at his top of his like asshole, like,
and it just felt weird, sure.
And it felt weird. It didn't resonate because we're trying to do too much with it. This is where it landed, and it's perfect. The like sort of trashy, flowery language of this book is delicious with the like texture of the Star Wars universe.
The difference is you were saying it's trashy, flowery, and Davis and I are like, this language slaps.
This is the greatest book
good.
I've ever read.
I'm with you on this, Davis.
I'm not trying to say that this is the best book ever, and I fully admit that I like forgot about good prose because most of the books that I've read now are literally nonfiction information books or Star Wars books. So like I am like falling in love with what elevated prose can do.
Yeah.
I don't need in my older wizened age to be the greatest book ever written. It's just a really well written Star Wars book, and that's the end of my point.
But is it cool if I criticize the prose?
I guess it just the idea of like
I think the difference is like a disagreement.
I just
or
criticize
like the idea like
no,
I think it was written really fast is like okay, but like
my point,
why,
the point that I'm making is that it works, and it's like a happy accident, and it's like this sort of, it's not like a highbrow reason that it's working. It works because he made the right choices, and we got this sort of like, so I'm trying to draw a comparison between the movie Return of the Jedi, which is obviously the lightest and easiest Star Wars thing, and kind of trying to prove that just because it is that doesn't mean that it didn't become the thing that we all love about Star Wars. Like the thing that I wrote down in my notes is that somehow Return of the Jedi, while being the objectively, or not objectively, but like the by far and away the least like high ranked of the original three trilogies movies, is somehow in our sort of sociological, anthropological experiment of like seeing how Star Wars grows. I'm just trying to highlight the fact that this sort of light, sort of airy, sort of flowery, but like it's still not challenging you as a reader to like think deeper than this first layer. I think that's where I'm trying to define what Star Wars is, and my feeling is that we're gonna get like, once we leave the movies behind for 20 years, where we get into the meat of this discovery that we've made, and it's not a discovery of intention. It wasn't like, my whole point is that he didn't sit down to write a masterpiece, like, and it isn't one. And why it's great is not because it's a masterpiece or that it's excellent writing. It's cool, beautiful, serviceable writing that like we as a multicultural, like from all walks of life, like people that watch Star Wars, all the different reasons we watch Star Wars, people who love like military stuff and come at it from that way, people who love like literature and mythology and come at it that way, people who come at it from just like liking special effects, whatever. We all came together and we all decided together that this sort of like light musical-esque space opera, sort of like melodrama is what we want. And that's what's good. And I don't think it's negative to say that it's not highbrow or something like that. That's my whole point. I'm not trying to dunk on it. I'm just trying to criticize it, which doesn't mean say it's bad, like when you criticize a meal. I'm trying to do criticism about this writing. I'm trying to say, look at this shit. Look at what's going on here. This is so interesting. It's interesting that it's lowbrow and it's hitting with this like sort of like the flower. That's what I'm saying. The floweriness of language has so much more potential than what it's doing here, but what it's doing here for us right now is working. That's all I'm saying. It's not really a negative for me about the book at all. It's not.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I assume that all the information in this is like given to him. So for me, like what is impressive is just like the prose that he uses to like
the angle,
dress it up.
The angle that he took is so...
Yeah, and I don't know, like the idea of a masterpiece, I don't know. The older I get, the more I'm like, everything is kind of like subjective. There are some like objective measures that you can apply, but in something like this, I'm like, I guess it's a masterpiece on a very subjective level because it's a story that I love, given the extra like information that I like needed to be able to be like, sweet. My like one outstanding feature, which I've talked about a lot, is the Vader of it all, is like solved here. That it started out as a like hero's journey. This is like, this ends it and reminds you that that's what Star Wars started out as.
Right.
And the Skywalker should end here, and they do, and it's beautiful. And for that, I rate it highly. But
In
it's like,
some ways-
Devil Daggers is a game. It's an incredible game. It's like a 10 out of, it like doesn't have everything that a game should have, but it knows what
Yeah,
it's trying
exactly.
to do, and it achieves it. And that's like what this is, where I'm like, it aims and hits its own target, whether that's the farthest target or the hardest. It doesn't really
in
matter.
in some ways, Kahn is Zahn. In some ways. I'm just saying, like,
It could be said.
I don't think, like, my point is that after reading this, I was like, holy shit. Without this, there's no Heir to the Empire. There's no template for how to do this in a book and have it feel like Star Wars. And I'm saying this guy, James Kahn, not the actor, the author, came in and like, he wrote Temple of Doom book. He wrote Poltergeist and Poltergeist 2 book. He wrote the Goonies book. Yep, there's actually three. That's actually three. There's at least three of them.
Are they?
No, they're not as good as the first one.
Okay, all right.
No.
That I didn't know.
It's
Probably
a straight up Highlander situation. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Only worse over time.
yeah, and the whole deal is like, you know, in that sort of unpretentious, almost fast food worker of writers job zone, he somehow kicked off like the tone of an entire universe, in my opinion. It's kind of interesting.
What's cool, like, who wrote the Han books?
Daily.
He like nailed the characters and the universe,
Like
and
what
the
kind
vibe
of
of
stuff,
the universe.
what kind of stuff he should be up to. Yeah.
And Kahn to me nailed the like
Tone.
idea of the fable. He got that like the fable element of it, which I guess Han is not really like a fable. Like he doesn't have that same trajectory.
He wrote Flash Gordon. You know? He like nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. He somehow encapsulated something that I don't even think Return of the Jedi, the movie, fully encapsulates.
I mean, I think it's the difference going to another game like the Witcher franchise. The Witcher books are Han Solo adventures. It is a dude on his own wacky adventures doing. The Witcher games are the fable. It's a story being told about this character. Same character, just two totally different ways of explaining it, and that's those books. The Han stories are like a guy going around the galaxy, getting caught up in adventures, and we want to know about him and his adventures. We don't.
Are the games the one that have like more fables and prophecies?
The games literally are like, here is the legend of what's going to happen with this character, and we're going to give you an ending. We're going to tell like all the choices you make along the way are going to be in some way related to the entire trilogy of what we've done.
That's so wild that it's done in reverse.
Yeah, and the books, if you read the books, you read anything that's Witcher based, it's literally like micro adventures of this guy.
You like find out that you're in an epic story, like
By accident, almost.
yeah,
pretty
like
much.
almost like I think the third book that's published, and they're like short stories, but I think the third one is like the one that starts off being like anything resembling an epic story at all.
And that's kind of the way you tell stories. The Han books you're exactly right. It's like, here's Han, it's a great character study, but that's all it is. It's not about anything else. It's just him. And then there's hints at the end like, yo, he's going to go back and do something great. But other than that, this book is, we're going to tell you the conclusion of an epic drama, and we're going to give you all the information you know to walk away when you're done. And you're like, that was great, period.
Yep. Exactly. It's like, it didn't exist before, and now we have it.
Yeah.
Now the platform is under us to like do the true like almost like Breath of the Wild, and then Elden Ring comes out.
Which is why the next big thing that pops up is another major trilogy about these characters.
They're trying to do a Star Wars trilogy as books.
Yep.
Yeah, straight up, which is not what Han Solo or Lando is.
Yeah, even the next few books we're going to read, not at all. And then Zahn's like, trilogy, let's go.
Bang, this is what we need. We need movies. Yeah. Okay, so we do the bike chase where they like go fight the troopers and like jump off the bikes and trick each other into hitting the trees. Pretty much exactly like the movie. Really cool, but like pretty much exactly like the movie. Vader gets to the tower in that like weird like matte painting thing that's there. The royal guard stops him. He starts to choke the guard, but stops because he hears the Empire ordered him to be stopped. And he like goes and he like vibes out that window that you know from the movie.
Yep.
Luke gets back to the strike force and he's like, wait, Leia didn't come back with you guys? And they're like, fuck. So they have to like go get her. Leia wakes up and we have that scene where she meets Wicket. Which later, there's another Ewok that's named Warwick. And my question is like, did he read some shit and then like
fuck it up,
mess up, or is there
or is it an homage?
Yeah, but like Wicket.
Also, they describe one of the characters dying, and then one of the Ewoks like died, and then he was back in the mix. So
Tebow.
So I'm just wondering if like
Timu?
Yeah, Timu.
Maybe before computers, you couldn't control F. Find I don't know.
Like, yeah, I really do think it's something like that, and I think
that may be the same problem with it was my brother that I sent you to. It may just be
just a slight mistake that nobody caught. Yeah, it's very possible, but also none of that stuff, like the idea of
particularly matters
deep
in the
lore
end.
Like that. Like I feel like Star Trek and Lord of the Rings were the only things that were even close to people thinking about this closely in terms of like.
And even then,
plowing through the artifice to like pretend like it's real.
And even then, go look at any Lord of the Rings subreddit or any forum and ask them a question about the lore of Lord of the Rings. They'll be like, Tolkien in 5 different places says 5 different things, and we don't know. Like,
ask about Gandalf.
Yeah.
Especially now. Okay. So Leia, we have the scene where it's like, yub nub, and she meets Wicket in the woods, and she's like slowly like. The woods are like slowly transforming Leia into a princess of like fairy tales somehow, like piece by piece. Like by the time she runs into Han on the bridge,
her like hair is completely
different. There's like birds like carrying her hair with her. But they team up and take out the like stormtrooper that. It's just like the movie. It's literally exactly
it's the same
like the
thing.
Movie.
From this point on, it is straight up just
we're the movie. I mean, we don't even need to really go over it. I'm gonna like. Take us through and we can stop if we need to, but I'm just going to kind of bounce.
My notes become much like
big same.
Yeah, it's very much the movie at this
There's
point.
like a couple funny lines, but that's not like relevant.
Vader meets the Emperor. He sends him down to go get Luke. They talk. They go down to the planet. Luke and Han are looking for Leia, but they get captured by the Ewoks. They think C-3PO is the god, etc., etc. Why did Chewbacca go for the meat? It says it smelled really good and it was irresistible to him.
Yeah, there's nothing else.
I wish that I could have gotten more out of that mystery. I was hoping that there would be more there. I'm thinking maybe they were drugged meats now. Maybe that's the only bit I got from there. We're back at the Ewok village. They're going to cook them for the banquet. They find out that the guest is Leia. They're so excited to see that. Luke makes 3PO float so that the Ewoks don't eat them, and now they listen to them. And
just rethinking of like, I mean, he's like not cool with like deceiving them in the movies, but like remembering that he's designed to be a protocol droid, and so like the idea of he like actually was
physically
programmed.
Repulsive.
It's not just he's like I can't do that. Like
he's like no. But yeah, so then 3PO does the thing where he like uses sound effects to tell the story, like a audio drama.
I just want to stress for this bit right here. If you have time, listener at home, and you want to listen to something else on YouTube, by the way, don't broadcast this word. I want it to still be there.
Yeah.
Everyone, so don't get all crazy. But someone about 9 months ago uploaded the unabridged audiobook of Return of the Jedi. And it's by Bob Askey, is the guy who's doing the VO. This entire bit where it's 3PO doing... Imagine a man who has the voice of like a news broadcaster doing this. It is hilarious. I must stress.
I would love to. It's of this book?
Literally right there.
It's like the audiobook of this book?
Of this book. It's the unabridged audiobook of this very book.
That's sweet. Yeah. So, yeah, the Chief frees him. 3PO tells the story. They give some speeches to like convince the Ewoks, which doesn't really happen as much in the movies. They kind of like just deepen it and kind of look a little bit further into Ewok culture and about how the Ewoks don't really see this as their fight, but then they explain to them, listen, like
I actually am trying to remember
the circle
how
of life.
This plays out.
It doesn't really. It just kind of.
Don't they literally just tell the tale of Star Wars again?
Yeah,
and then they're like on board to do it.
Yeah,
they're like, oh, that.
But in this, it's like much more like it feels like an allegory to like how Indigenous Tribes in America Act when they're called upon by the government.
For the government, yeah.
And it kind of has like that, but that in like almost like in a Western, in like the trope of a Western, like a Gunsmoke type TV show, not like how it was in history, just to be clear.
Right, yeah.
And it's weird because everybody, like, there's like a series of rousing speeches to try to convince them, and Han gets up and does like a comedy bit about like, I didn't have family, but friends are the best, and you're like, this is weird. And then was it one of their own that finally like convinces
No, somebody
them?
pops out and goes, Leia's the last one, and she goes, it's for the dude for the trees. And
Oh
they're like,
yeah,
and they're
and
like,
then,
oh, of course, okay, yeah.
And then it's like that inspires someone to give like a long-winded Ewok discussion. It was
like the Ewok gives a speech.
yeah.
It's like the
good.
chief is like, fellow Ewoks, we
The guy
must
with all the
not."
skulls around his neck, you know.
It's funny because he's like erudite, but it's just it's platitudes.
It didn't play that well. When I was reading this part, I was like, I'm glad this wasn't in the
This
movie.
would have been a weird pace change for the movie that we did not need at this time, but it wasn't a bad scene. It was just, it felt very surprisingly Western Gunsmoky, which was cool. Then Luke is dragged to Vader, and they do their little... I'm sorry. Earlier when I said Vader was being moody, he was up on the top,
Right.
waiting to come down. Now he's being moody.
They have that scene where they're in like the hallway.
Yeah, now they're being moody in the hallway, and he's like, I know there's good in you. And Vader's like, let me tell you something. There's no good in me. I'm a fucking piece of shit.
It's always been like a funny scene that Luke's like, Dad, I'm going to save you. And his dad's like, no, shut up. Shut up, you stupid kid.
But in the book version, there's like a pause, and then he goes like, he's like, I really fucked up. Like there's no way you're going to save me. There's like a moment of clarity.
This is I like this scene. It's always awkward because the last time they met, he didn't even know. And I think even here, he's like, so you like, he calls him father, and he's like, so you've accepted like that whole thing. They do the like lightsaber one. He says like, this one is mine. I no longer use yours, which is
impossible. It's gone.
It's like different from, but with
he's
all the stuff that we've been thinking about, and we hear Luke's mind throughout, it feels more impactful for him to say it that way. He also approaches this, I think we kind of skipped over, but like Luke is like, I won't kill him, and I might die. And like knowing that Leia exists, he was like in his own head, or like something like, well, if I'm not, then Leia might actually be able, like I might just buy time for Leia to be able to.
And then Vader was like, wait a minute.
But like Vader only he learns about that at the end, but just the idea that like Luke is going into this being like, I am going to either turn him or die, and it's like, that's it. He's already
I
like
definitely
sort of
read too much into this, by the way, because the immediate feeling I had while reading this was the concept of like, when I don't know how this is for women, my apologies, I'm not one, but for men,
so I'll speak to their perspective.
Thank you, Davis. But there is a thing in young men that there's a certain point where you realize, or at least think mentally, I could take my dad.
Yeah.
Like you have that, like he's been this authority figure, and I'm terrified he's going to kick my ass
hot rod
if
moment.
I like talk out or whatever. And at a certain point, you're like, bring it, old man. Let's go.
One day he tries to get you, and you're like, and all the bullets stop, and you realize that he's an old man, and you can just whip his ass.
And that's the same vibe I got here from Luke. Luke was like, yeah, all right, you may be this badass and you were before, but like, Dad, I'm a man now.
Yeah.
And I don't need, and I was like, damn, Luke, okay.
Yeah,
that's the vibe I got.
It really, that's the vibe, yeah. And I'm going to just really quick touch on the Rebel fleet really quick. What's going on during this with the Rebel fleet is that Lando and them all go in and they run an attack on the Death Star.
Yes.
The shield is supposed to be down, but it does
is
not go
not.
down. So they decide to wait until the shield goes down before they attack, and they almost die, but then the shield goes down and they go in. That's what happens with Lando. I'm going to stick to the other stuff for now, just to make it easier.
The only other, like, they do all the same stuff in the movie.
Very
they then
straightforward.
realize, like, fuck, well, we got to go, like, fire. We're going to go, like, fight.
Get to the Star Destroyers.
Well, actually, this is Lando's good moments kind of get fucked. Like, Lando in the book has a lot more to do here, and that he's the leader is explained a lot better because it's like, he actually is a strategic genius also. Like, he has a history of doing sort of like things that are risky, but they work. And here, the idea of going towards the Star Destroyers that have been just sitting there to keep them there, they're like, cool, so we're just going to go over there and die. And he's like, well, if we sit here, the Death Star is going to kill us, but they're not going to fire on their own ships. So even though they all they overpower us. They can't just shoot us because they'll hit their own ships. And also, those motherfuckers don't expect us to fucking get up on their ass and blow them up.
So it'll buy some time.
And so it does work. So it just, I don't know. Like, I don't think the movie does nearly that much. So Lando actually, like, gets to make up for...
He does do it in the movie. He does command
much faster.
It's just like, it takes like 2 seconds.
Yeah, they go through in the beginning, and it's just so much Lando in his head being like, I'm going to play the perfect card. Then he gets fucked, and he's like, I can't believe I fucked myself. And then he basically just gets to be better in this one.
Also, I know, picture's worth 1,000 words, and the idea of watching one of those Mon Calamari ships explode because of a Death Star fired on it is awesome. Lovely visual. The way it's written in this, I don't give a shit. The flowery language of a ship being vaporized,
it's so sick,
is awesome. It is so much better than just watching it
popping like balloons or some shit like that.
He's
really
like,
cool.
and then it was like just gone. Like the concept of it just being like it was there and now it's not.
Yeah,
it's space
sick.
dust. Like that's cool as shit.
To be clear, I like the flowery language. I'm just saying, it's not a high intellectual use of it. It's like like a lowbrow deploying.
What it does is it very skillfully makes something. This book,
it makes it so sick. Is really what it is.
A series in the story is just a series of battles over and over to wrap up a story, and it's super hard, as we've learned from many other books and many things, that like writing action.
It's
so hard.
You gotta be cool. It's weird, like to make it cool, you gotta kind of play with the audience a little bit. I agree. I think it's
like writing action's tough, and so to have a movie that's mostly action be written and to have the writing me be like, I like this version than the one I got in the movie, I'm here for it.
And you kind of can track everything that's happening, except for at the end, all the planes or the spaceships just like take a left turn and leave, and it's fine. And they don't really like explain it, but it's fine. Yeah,
that was so confusing because they went in and explained the superstructure that it's not finished being built, and then they explain a lot of it, and then they like don't. Then they're like, they kind of just go and leave, and you're like, sorry, I'm just confused because you were so descriptive and now we're just out?
Because he's like, I don't care. You don't care. No one cares.
It was like impossible that they made it that far in.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, they got out.
And then it's like, whatever.
They got out. Just shut up. They got out. Yeah. Luke also got out. Fuck you. Yeah,
everybody got out.
He had time. He had time to do everything he needed to do.
Although I do miss, like, it could have been like the flames tickled the rear of the Millennium Falcon as it exfiltrates
on their sweet little ass.
Some gleeful dominatrix. Okay, so also I'm going to cover the Endor part now. Here's what happens, just so you guys understand the mechanics of this. So they are camped out in front of the base, and some Ewoks go and lead away most of the guards.
Which happens in the movie.
Yeah. All this happens in the movie.
Yeah.
Leads away the guards, and then they go, okay, great, let's go in. They get in. They like take out the first group of guys, but then like a door opens and nope, everybody knew they were coming.
One guy gets knocked into a power generator
and disappears.
He goes, yeah.
But so they show up, too many Imperials. Now they get kidnapped and everything's going bad on the inside, and then they go outside again, and now somehow when they go outside this time, 1 million Ewoks have been preparing for 5 days.
That's because Chewie led them, dude.
Yeah, 1 million Ewoks have been preparing for 5 days to like perfectly destroy the exact like soldiers, units, and vehicles that the Empire brought, with perfect traps built for all of them, and it's just chaos of them fighting until basically Chewbacca gets the walker, kind of turns the tide of the battle, and then the Death Star explodes.
Yeah, they talk a bit more about, I'm not gonna read the quote, but like they dug pits. They say that they like dammed a river. Like they just did
so much
what you saw, but like more. And I'm kind of like, okay, since you've contextualized that these troops are like not really like made for this terrain, and like, and my brain is really making these Ewoks a little bit cooler.
Or maybe they're like freaks.
The ones from Spoon of the Mind's Eye. Like, remember the tribe they go with? Like, that was a more effective version because they weren't cutesy, but it was a similar thing.
Maybe they're just effective. Like maybe like Ewoks, like they're like, oh, we'll just herd them into the traps in this sector of our kill box that we have, our hunting grounds. Like maybe like if they are truly like rabid little teddy bear warriors, which is what they fucking are, like maybe this woods is like already booby trapped because they don't like that there's a fucking base here, and they're like, I don't know what's going to go down with this. These guys can kick our asses, but someday the woods will eat them alive if we, you know
what would have made this better? I just realized the reason...
It does make perfect sense too, because that's the only...
It's an aberration.
There's no other base. It's just that.
The reason why I think visually the Ewoks don't work, and it's just like bears. If you see a bear standing, it's kind of like, oh, look at that bear. He's slow and stupid. He's standing. If they showed an Ewok on all fours, like charging at you, I bet that'd be terrifying.
Yeah.
Like little tiny bastards, like,
That'd
be cool as
I
shit.
know we've talked about it even maybe before on the show, but I know that there is an Apocalypse Now, Elseworlds, or whatever they're called in Star Wars, where a troop of stormtroopers is like taken out. The horror. By like they're like slowly killed off like Predator by Ewoks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know that is coming in our future. So yeah, they go to the Death Star. They go to the Emperor. The Emperor is teasing Luke that he's going to fail, but he's also like, I want you to know something. Everything that's going to happen right now is going to cuck you. I made this. This is not you getting here at all. You shouldn't have even got here. I could have killed you 1,000 times. I could have killed everyone 1,000 times, but this is my delicious little treat for myself. My
Fully
tasty little
armed
present.
and operational.
He does a good, like, he goads him, and then because we get in his brain, it's another long quote I'm not going to read, but like, he does like mind fuck, like, because Luke's like, oh, I can fucking kill him. Wait, but if I kill him, wait, he wants me to do that. But
Yeah, it's
like,
fucked
he
up.
actually is like, shit. But
He
what did
literally
Yoda say
does.
about this. He's like, he does like,
He literally gets tricked into killing
he's
the
like, I
Emperor.
could just like choke him to death with my hands right now, but then I don't know what to do.
I don't know what's going on with the architecture of this throne room. There's like a weird like forest of pillars in one corner that doesn't make sense. Even in the movie, I don't really understand what's going
They
on.
said it was
over there.
supposed to be. So in the book early, they say that it was an observation deck that they just threw a throne into.
Well, like,
basically,
it is supposed to be his new like, that's his home. That's his new throne.
That's where he's going to be.
Like, all his little like hanger-ons are there now. Like, they all
Right.
moved in, and like Vader hates them because they're all a bunch of assholes. But like, that is like supposed to be his new office.
Yeah, so he juices him up, and Luke like resists everything, and he hides and all this stuff, and then he does the spiritual violation of mentioning Luke's sister, and he goes no, and he like swings, and Vader's like, hey.
No. Leia doesn't. He doesn't know about Leia till the end of their sword fight.
The thing
that's
that-
what makes Luke go
Cut his hand
ball
off,
out on him.
Oh, that's what makes him go on Vader.
Yeah.
He has them trapped on the. He's like, oh, your strike force? My guys have them. They're dead. You lose. And I think it's when there's like no other option. That's when
he
Luke-
kills him and stops him, and then they fight.
They also add a thing in
Then he
this
knocks
where
the
he's
Vader-
like,
the saber on the
Jared,
ground.
by the way, if I die
Kill
for
him
some
anyway.
reason, immediately destroy the. Or no, he's like, if
Turn
the
and
shield
shoot
comes
Endor.
down, destroy Endor.
Yeah, and that pisses Luke
I think
off.
that's what, because he's like, there's nothing, and he's like,
So Vader and Luke fight, and Vader like chases Luke into the little like pipe forest, like that weird like street lamp art from Los Angeles that's on the street. The lightsaber ends up on the ground. He's like, I'm not gonna fight you, and then
because he like legit bests him. Their
Yeah.
like first fight, Vader at first is like, all right, I just have to like stop him from doing anything.
he
or hurt
realizes
himself, and then Vader's like,
that Luke's too good. Yeah,
fuck.
yeah,
And then that's why when Luke's like,
yeah. But then he comes out. He says, "I'm gonna debase your sister instead," and he goes, "Fuck you." He says it, "Fuck you" in the book. He wrote it down. He said,
Vader, you complete fuckhead.
fuck you!
I'm taking that arm and fuck you.
And they fight, and he cuts off his hand like pretty like nonchalantly in the book. Actually, he's like, he hits him, and his hand fell off, and he keeps hitting him, and then it's time to kill him, and he doesn't, and so the Emperor shocks Luke a bunch of times, and he says, "Dad, help me."
It's the movie.
It's just the movie. Yeah.
It's the movie.
I
We'll
don't
talk
even think-
more
they
about
don't even
it.
add like more language in
No.
this. I think it's just like that's
No,
what
yeah,
happened.
we'll talk more about it, but like when we watch it, probably and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, it's exactly like the movie up to this point. The lightning is like burning his body. It's like electrocuting him slowly and cooking him, which is fucked up to think about. But that's obviously what's happening anyway. And eventually, Vader just without really. You don't really get to see him make the decision in his head, which I thought was cool because I think they kind of do that in the movie too. They just kind of show
Literally
Vader,
just flashes
they just
to
have him
Vader's
like
face.
looking
Yeah.
back and
Yeah.
forth, and then he.
and he just goes off camera. And in the book, really, it's the same thing. They don't really give you his entire internal monologue. He just
doesn't
kind of
yell, "No."
No, he just kind of.
Because it should be obvious to literally any living, breathing person
course.
exactly what's going on.
Yeah, so he grabs him,
And
throws
he's
him
like,
in the
"Father,
hole.
please!" Like it's
Yeah.
not subtle.
And
No.
they make a big deal of the Emperor bouncing off the walls of the chasm, which is
Dude,
very
he hits it on
funny
the
to me.
Which in the movie he bounces off one of the walls.
It's true, and it made me the first time that I saw it, and actually last time I watched Return of the Jedi too, I was like, oh, like I'm now imagining this like old man like hitting the metal wall and like getting like a big bump on his head as he's dying, and I'm like, oh shit. Yep. And so then the shield goes down and all that stuff's going on, and Lando and them go in. Luke fights Vader. The electricity from the electricity and Luke fighting him together, the wounds that Luke gave him, the electricity going into Vader's body while he grabbed the Emperor, I guess is enough to like short out his suit and like fuck his shit up.
Always so weird to me. Like, I guess his arm cut off. I'm assuming it really has to be the electricity.
That lightning is
suit breaks down.
The only thing we know about Star Wars is that lightning happens all the time. It's not a special one-time thing for the Emperor at all.
I hate that.
And it
never
hurts,
been a fan.
And it hurts
never want to talk about
so
that.
much. It can turn the Emperor into an old man in 2 seconds.
Never want to talk about that again.
It can
Terrible.
kill Mace Windu. It's
Except
a bummer.
Luke can take it like a champ.
He took it.
Luke
He took
sat
it
there
hard.
and was like, I'm going to shake for 10 minutes and you can't kill me. It's like, damn.
My best impression of it. All right. So that all happens, and then we get... I'm going to let Davis do a monologue right now about how he loves this scene about Vader dying. Because it's the same scene, let me see with my own eyes, but you just get...
more.
You just get a little more.
Yeah.
And we talked about it a little bit, but is there something you want to read or you want to talk about it at all?
Where is this?
Towards the end.
I think I didn't like save a bunch of the stuff because the scene was so good, but he was talking about it like he kind of like Han, he was experiencing like sense
all the things
for
that
the
happened,
first time, and it was like he felt like raindrop on his lips, but it was really like his
own tears.
All of the sounds of like being in an exploding thing, it was like and all the smells, it was just like flashing him back to like a time that we never see. Kind of was almost like fucking prequel stuff, like flowers and like senses and rain and sky, and it's just like sad because he sort of like realizes
how
I
gross
wasted
he is,
it all.
yeah.
Like I wasted everything. So it was just a very
But he also sees Luke, and that's the thing that's amazing, is that he feels the sunness of Luke, and he knows that Luke is good, and he knows that Luke is going to go on, and it actually like he goes and like fucking dies, like actually redeemed.
Oh, and then man, God, sorry, this is a good. But one of the things is like when he like sort of sees Luke looking at him, and he like feels what do you fucking call? He feels like self-conscious about how broken and gross he is. He says like, luminous beings are we, Luke, not this crude matter before he dies.
That's the best
I think
line.
that's what
the Yoda
like got
line.
me.
Yeah. That's what Yoda tells Luke in Empire.
Super sweet line.
Like read it. It's a beautiful, like they just went above and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
This was not in the movie, and it's just a good way to like actually wrap up like a guy realizing like beyond him just being like, tell your sister you were right about me. It shows you him actually being like, fuck, I did not choose correctly. This sucks, and damn, I like could have had a different life.
But also he's like,
but I mean, I guess it ends positively towards that. But
he's
like, you
also
don't ever
like,
really see him,
and it will go on. Yeah,
like you don't otherwise really see him express any real like sorrow for his life choices.
Yeah,
and here you feel it.
It's cool that Lando and Wedge both fire the shot at the end. Even though they both just like left turn out of the Death Star, and then they're like,
that feels very like, well, let's give these guys a win.
Yeah, cool, like Predator handshake of a win. And then you got to imagine that after Luke, like 2 seconds after Vader, like dies in Luke's arms, like so gently, Luke just
drags his ass onto that
stands
ship.
Up, grabs him, flips him over the shoulder, and runs the fuck out of there, which is like fucking crazy. And then they get down to the planet, and everybody's happy, and you get to see the scene where Leia tells Han about the brother thing. I think that scene's better in the movie. I think
100%. I think that's
all Harrison.
Carried by Harrison Ford.
All Harrison going, like pointing and being like,
Yes.
That's just too good. But that scene's in here. They get the like little denouement of the Ewok village. There's no sweeping vistas of all the Imperial planets,
But there's
and all the statues. There is a little party, and he does see them. And it's not as like he did literally see them in this. It's more like, did he see them out of the twinkle of his eye? Was it him? And was it Obi-Wan?
The movie is like, there they are.
They're
there.
waving.
You
They're
see them.
6 feet tall.
There's a smile.
There's
like
an actor who
you
plays
crazy
each of
guys.
them.
Yeah.
That seems to be like a recurring thing through the books, is like, except for the times where he specifically talks to their Force ghosts, half the time it's like, was that real? Like when he said go to Dagobah, am I crazy? Like
was I high?
or like
Yeah.
when he was like firing, use the Force, Luke. So yeah,
Exactly. So that's Return of the Jedi. That's the Skywalker saga finished for
We did it.
30, 40 years. Pretty crazy. I would say the first like huge milestone that
the beginning of the end for us, as it is the first of 3 versions of the story.
Yeah, we still have. Well, we have the watch along, which you can listen to.
and the
on-
games.
Yeah, you get that's more fun. The watch along is going to be on Patreon pretty soon. So if you want to watch the 4K like old unspecial editionized as it was in the theaters cut of Return of the Jedi with us, go to patreon.com.
Which makes it far more special
Oh.
than the now 1,000 different slices of it.
It'll probably work pretty good with the Disney Plus version, but I think if you can, you should try and get the 4K.
There will be
83 cut.
no 1 minute.
Nice noodles.
Yes, noodles.
Yeah.
Dance number.
But
We got that flop-eared jizz whaler, Max Rebo.
him just I don't think he makes a single sound with his body. I think he just makes like a little squeak, like a basketball game. Like how shoes sound when they squeak on a basketball
yeah.
court.
Yeah.
That's kind of how his body. I feel like he's like rubbery like that. It doesn't matter. Point is, we got the commentary coming up soon. As always, there's an Inside the Insider episode that goes live right after this. So if you're liking what you're hearing right now and you want to keep going, patreon.com/SWOCBC is the way to, both support the show and get some more right now, and a bunch more episodes actually, because we've only put out 3 Inside the Insiders on the feed. But now you guys all know what the vibe is. So now it's all hype, right? That's
Hell
good.
yeah.
That's good stuff.
Bunch of fun, good stuff.
And then Return of the Jedi comes after that, and then Lando.
God.
The Lando Calrissian and the
Is it the Mind Harp
of Sharu is the next thing that we're going to be reading.
The Star Cave of Thumbaka.
Yeah, and there's another one too, the Fire. I forget what it's called, but there's 3 of them. It's going to be great. I can't wait to find out if they stand up to the Brian Daly books. Like
I don't know a damn thing about these books.
I never knew about these when I was a kid. Yeah, so I'm excited about this.
I hope they're good, because we got 3 of them.
And I'll tell you this: I got the OG first editions. They look sick as hell. And they're really cool. So get hyped for that. I love you, and Star Wars rules. Goodbye.
Bye.
Later.
The Star Wars Old Canon Book Club is made possible by contributions from our listeners at patreon.com/SWOCBC. Thank you for your support. This month's Patreon Masters of the Force are Sovereign, Ian Berenade, Trevor Isom, Patrick Rowland, Matt Wars 56, Amy W, Jazz Owl, Evan Alexander Guillen, Peacetime Mando, and Metroid Mike. Thanks for listening. We'll be back soon with a discussion about our next selection, Return of the Jedi, a novel by James Kahn. This episode was edited by Alex Del Campo and Alex Fasciani. The theme song is Venus, the Bringer of Peace by Gustav Holst, performed by the U.S. Air Force Heritage of America Band. Original show art by Jackie Whistler. See you next time.